Warrior Lore. Chapter 450. If the physical body was destroyed, the soul would soon dissipate as well. This was common knowledge in the world of cultivators. However, the fact that Ghost Azura Luo Yan's soul had been preserved after his physical body had died had aroused Lin Feng's suspicions. Although Lin Feng did not have a deep understanding of ghost cultivators and did not know how they attached their souls to other objects, Lin Feng was very clear about one thing. Before he had obtained the ghost cultivator's secret technique, Luo Yan's soul had not been destroyed because it had been attached to the boat. This was enough to explain many things. There were some strange things about the boat itself. Later on, Luo Yan had started to cultivate the ghost cultivator's secret technique, so the boat had turned into a ghost boat. Lin Feng asked calmly, "How long have you been a ghost cultivator?" Luo Yan did not want to talk to Lin Feng too much, as he was worried that he would spill the beans again. However, Lin Feng's methods were too powerful and restrained him. If he refused, Luo Yan was worried that Lin Feng would use those terrifying methods to deal with him again. Luo Yan said reluctantly, "I've been attached to the ghost boat for 300 years, and I've been a ghost cultivator for 200 years. Lin Feng said, "You spent 100 years to become a ghost cultivator? Your cultivation talent is really tsk. When he saw Lin Feng's disdainful expression, Luo Yan was instantly enraged. Ghost cultivators had their own dignity. Moreover, ghost cultivators valued their dignity more than ordinary cultivators. Luo Yan explained, "What do you know? Ghost cultivators are the most difficult cultivators. Becoming a ghost cultivator in 100 years is already considered a super genius. I became a ghost cultivator and cultivated for another 200 years. My current soul power is equivalent to a yin-yang realm expert at the 8th stage. When my soul power reaches the level of a creation realm cultivator, I will be able to leave the magnetic fog lake." Lin Feng said with a smile that did not seem like a smile, "You managed to become a ghost cultivator in 100 years. That's 100 years before you became a ghost cultivator, yet your soul was not destroyed. This is truly shocking. Just what kind of treasure is on this ship of yours?" Luo Yan's expression changed again and again. He thought that Lin Feng was just chatting casually, but he didn't expect that he would be tricked by Lin Feng again. Luo Yan cursed Lin Feng in his heart for being despicable and shameless, but he didn't answer Lin Feng's question and simply kept quiet. The purple earthcore fire danced on Lin Feng's fingertips. Lin Feng said, "If you don't cooperate with me, then I can only let you have a taste of the purple earthcore fire. Brat, don't go too far. We're in the magnetic fog lake. If you push me too far, we'll just die together." Luo Yan roared angrily. His cold eyes stared fiercely at Lin Feng, as if he wanted to eat Lin Feng alive. Lin Feng sneered. If a normal cultivator had threatened him like this, then Lin Feng wouldn't have acted rashly. However, Lin Feng didn't care about Luo Yan's threat at all. In order to survive, Luo Yan didn't hesitate to become a ghost cultivator that was neither human nor ghost. This showed that Luo Yan was extremely afraid of death. "Then let's see if I dare to burn this broken ship. Moreover, I have a map to control you, so it won't be difficult for me to successfully pass through the magnetic fog lake. At that time, it won't be too late to burn you to death." Lin Feng threatened Luo Yan. When Luo Yan heard this, his face turned green. He thought to himself that he had gone through a lot of hardships to become a ghost cultivator. He didn't know how many hardships he had to go through to reach the manifestation realm. Perhaps in less than 100 years, he would be able to leave this damned magnetic fog lake and live like a normal person. But now, he was going to die at the hands of this brat? He wasn't willing to die like this. "I'll endure you for now. After 100 years, I'll be able to leave this magnetic fog lake and cultivate a body of flesh and blood. At that time, I'll definitely cut you into pieces." When he thought about this, Luo Yan took a deep breath and said, "This ship was originally owned by an extremely powerful cultivator, and it was embedded with a piece of heavenly star soul jade. My primordial spirit was attached to this piece of heavenly star soul jade, which was why it didn't dissipate." Heavenly star soul jade? Lin Feng sucked in a breath of cold air. He had heard from the fire Qilin that this heavenly star soul jade was a type of jade that was born on the bright moon in the depths of the Milky Way world. The moon was the king of the stars. The power of the moon was the most suitable energy to strengthen one's soul, But cultivators couldn't absorb the power of the moon to increase their own strength. However, it was said that some heavenly treasures could absorb the power of the moon, such as the heavenly star soul jade that only appeared on the moon. The heavenly star soul jade was formed by the power of the moon and could absorb the power of the moon. Even if a cultivator's physical body died, they could attach their soul to the heavenly star soul jade and live on. However, the heavenly star soul jade was an extremely rare treasure. The fire Qilin had searched many places in the past, but it hadn't been able to find it. Lin Feng said, "The heavenly star soul jade is really good stuff. I've never seen it before. Let me take a look." "Don't go too far," Luo Yin said gloomily. Lin Feng said coldly, "What? Can't I even look at it? If you don't know how to appreciate favors, I'll have to do it myself." "Humph, you're obviously trying to steal my heavenly star soul jade. This treasure is extremely important to me. I'd rather die with you in this lake than give it to you," Luo Yin said fiercely. Luo Yin ferociously. He wanted to fight against Lin Feng. "Die with me? Even now, you still don't understand the situation you're in? Even if you want to die with me, do you have the ability to do so? I'll use my heavenly flames to control you, and once we reach the shore, I'll kill you. If you don't believe me, we can fight to the death and see who will emerge victorious." Lin Feng sneered. "You, despicable." Luo Yin flew into a rage. Lin Feng sneered. "A demon who kills without blinking an eye is calling me despicable? That's the funniest joke I've ever heard. You think you're sure to win? But if I use the soul disintegration technique, my soul will be destroyed, and the ship will be destroyed as well. At that time, we'll both die in the lake." Luo Yin said fiercely. "Soul disintegration technique?" Lin Feng couldn't help but curse. Luo Yin knew quite a few soul techniques. Lin Feng knew that he couldn't force Luo Yin into a corner. If Luo Yin really wanted to die with him, he would have no choice but to cry. Said Lin Feng, "Let's make a compromise, shall we?" "What is it?" Luo Yin asked. "We'll split the heavenly star soul jade in half. It'll be good for you, good for me, good for everyone. How about it?" Lin Feng said. "You, dream on." Luo Yin roared through clenched teeth. He still needed the heavenly star soul jade to strengthen his soul. If he gave half of it to Lin Feng, it would be the same as asking for his life. Chapter 451. Lin Feng said indifferently, "So you're saying that you want to fight me to the death for half a piece of celestial soul jade? Is that really necessary? Isn't it just half a piece of celestial soul jade? Even if you lose half of it, the remaining half will still allow your cultivation to increase rapidly. If you fight me to the death, your body and soul will be destroyed. Think about all the hardships you've gone through over the past few hundred years to reach where you are now. Is it worth it to fight me to the death for half a piece of celestial soul jade?" Azura Ghostface fell silent, his expression extremely ugly. Asking him to hand over half a piece of celestial soul jade had pained him greatly. However, when he thought about Lin Feng's words, they did make a lot of sense. When he thought about all the hardships he had gone through over the past 300 years, if his body and soul were destroyed, wouldn't all the hardships he had suffered over the past 300 years have been for nothing? Azura Ghostface gritted his teeth. "How can I trust you? If I give you the celestial soul jade, and you cross the magnetic fog lake to kill me, what should I do? Won't I die a miserable death then?" It was no wonder that Azura Ghostface would think this way. Lin Feng was too much of a threat to him. Back in the magnetic fog lake, Lin Feng had been worried about his body disintegrating, so he had not fought him to the death. Now that they were on land, all of his worries were gone. He could kill Azura Ghostface however he wanted. Lin Feng said, "I can make an oath. What do you think?" "All right, then make an oath." Luo Ghostface's eyes suddenly lit up. Cultivators rarely made oaths. If they broke an oath, they would suffer a backlash from the oath. The sky was usually clear for thousands of miles, but there was thunder and lightning. Why? It was because some cultivators broke their oaths and were struck to death by lightning. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Oh, right. Aside from the celestial soul jade, I want something else. I don't think you'll be stingy with it." Hearing Lin Feng's words, Luo Ghostface instantly darkened. He said in a low voice, "Kid, stop. Are you done yet?" Please don't say that. I've only made one request. How can you call it endless? I think you should at least make 3 or 4 requests before you can use that word. Lin Feng said seriously. Ziyuan, who was standing at the side, was amused. She thought to herself, young master is so naughty. This time, this ghost cultivator will be angered to death, right? Luo Yin was indeed angered to death by Lin Feng. He really wanted to cut Lin Feng into 1,000 pieces, then eat all the flesh that was cut off from Lin Feng's body, drink the blood of his soul, and enslave Lin Feng's soul. However, he could only think about it for now. Luo Xian said angrily, "You can't be so shameless." Lin Feng said, "How am I shameless? I'm just stating my request. As for whether you agree or not, that's up to you." Luo Xian suppressed his anger and sullenness and said, "Tell me, what request do you have?" "You attacked me with a small soul person. That's a pretty good soul technique. Teach me that soul technique," said Lin Feng. Lin Feng said, Luo Xian had the urge to slap Lin Feng to death. The miniature soul-wielding sword was more than just a pretty good soul secret technique. It could be considered a top-tier soul secret technique. Among the dozen or so soul secret techniques that Luo Xian knew, this technique was one of the most powerful ones. Many top-tier organizations might not even be able to produce such a powerful soul secret technique. But now, from this brat's mouth, this powerful soul secret technique of the miniature soul holding the sword was only described as not bad. Luo Xian's expression was gloomy. He wondered if he should give Lin Feng an incomplete copy of the miniature soul-wielding sword for Lin Feng to cultivate. If he cultivated an incomplete copy of the miniature soul-wielding sword, Lin Feng might suffer from qi deviation and die. Luo Xian immediately laughed sinisterly. But at that moment, Lin Feng's voice rang out. "This is a fair trade. Don't try to trick me with an incomplete copy of the miniature soul-wielding sword. I also cultivate a soul secret technique, so I believe that I have a certain degree of understanding of soul secret techniques. If you try to trick me with an incomplete copy of the miniature soul-wielding sword, then this fair trade of mutual benefit will fail. I will have no choice but to get rid of you. Who told you to try to trick me? Of course, if you hadn't, we would still be good friends." Luo Xian was shocked. He hadn't expected Lin Feng to see through his intentions. But after hearing Lin Feng's words, Luo Xian felt so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Was this a mutually beneficial trade? This trade is only useful to you. Okay? Was this a fair trade? Damn it, I was forced to do this. Okay? We're good friends? I really want to slap you to death. You have the nerve to say that we're good friends? How can you trick your good friends like this? Luo Xian felt that he was simply unlucky to have met Lin Feng. This kid's cultivation was obviously not very strong, but his methods were very astonishing. Furthermore, he was able to restrain himself. This made Luo Xian feel like crying. Luo Xian said with a gloomy face, "Why would I use an incomplete copy of the miniature soul-wielding sword to trick you? Although I, Luo Xian, am a ghost cultivator, my character is still trustworthy." As soon as he finished speaking, Luo Xian threw a yellowed scroll to Lin Feng and said, "This is the cultivation method for the complete miniature soul-wielding sword." Lin Feng was delighted. After catching the scroll, he immediately opened it and carefully read every word recorded on it. There were only a few hundred words, but the cultivation method of the miniature soul-wielding sword was recorded very clearly. Lin Feng nodded and said, "Not bad, not bad. At least you didn't use an incomplete copy of the cultivation method to trick me. Now, you should make an oath. If you do, I will give you the heavenly star soul jade." Luo Xian said. Lin Feng raised his right hand and pointed to the sky. "Today, Azura Ghost Yin will give me the heavenly star soul jade. After I cross the magnetic fog lake, I will let Azura Ghost Yin go. I will definitely not harm Azura Ghost Yin. If I violate this oath, may I be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." After swearing the oath, in a flash, a thunderbolt penetrated into Lin Feng's brain and turned into a talisman. Lin Feng knew that it was the oath talisman. If he violated the oath talisman would be activated and lightning would strike him to death. Azura Ghost Yin let out a long breath when he saw Lin Feng make the oath. He threw a purple jade to Lin Feng. This purple jade was clearly the heavenly star soul jade. Lin Feng held the heavenly star soul jade in his hand. He immediately felt a large amount of moon essence energy enter his body and be absorbed by his soul. His spiritual strength increased at a rate 10 times faster than before. Lin Feng was shocked. This heavenly star soul jade was actually so powerful that it could increase one's spiritual strength by 10 times. This was too heaven-defying. No wonder the fire Qilin had been searching for it. Chapter 452. On the other side of Magnetic Fog Lake, Lin Feng waved at Luo Yan. "We'll meet again." Luo Yan's expression was gloomy. He sneered and thought to himself, "The next time I see you is when I condense my flesh and blood and leave Magnetic Fog Lake. That will be the time of your death." The ghost ship drifted toward the depths of Magnetic Fog Lake and soon disappeared into the thick fog. "Master, have we reached the desolate region?" Ziyuan asked softly. "No, we need to pass through Fog City to reach the desolate region," Lin Feng said. "Fog City? What's that place?" Ziyuan asked softly. Fog City is an ancient city at the border between the East Province and the desolate region. I heard that after passing through Magnetic Fog Lake, we can reach Fog City, Lin Feng said.
Yes.
Ziyuan nodded. This area was shrouded in fog, and visibility was about 20 meters. Beyond that, nothing could be seen. The visibility was much better than in Magnetic Fog Lake, but it was still very low. Fog City was in the depths of the Great Fog World. Lin Feng planned to rest in Fog City before heading to the desolate region. In the vast, desolate region, Lin Feng was a little lost. He did not know where to go. The fire Qilin was not by his side. His clansmen had been captured. Thinking of this, Lin Feng sighed inwardly. When he reached the desolate region, he would first find out what major forces there were and hope to join them to cultivate. Roar. Half a day later, the roar of a beast came from afar. Rumble. Soon, the earth began to shake violently. Soon, a huge monster rushed over. It was 100-meter-tall beast. It looked like a deer, but it wasn't a deer. It looked like a lion, but it wasn't a lion. It looked like a tiger, but it wasn't a tiger. It looked like a cow, but it wasn't a cow. The wild beast in front of him was heavily injured. Its body was covered in wounds and blood. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A few silhouettes rushed over from afar and soon stopped. Then, they took out their flying swords and rushed towards the David's deer. There were 3 men and 1 woman, each of them dressed luxuriously. For example, the woman was wearing a purple gold robe embroidered with phoenixes, a mysterious jade hairpin on her head, a piece of heavenly mother jade on her waist, and 2 jade bracelets on her wrists, which were also a pair of magic treasures. There were 7 or 8 magic treasures on her body, and the other 3 male cultivators also had magic treasures on them. Clearly, these 4 young men and women came from extraordinary backgrounds. They took out their flying swords and slashed at the odd beast. Roar. The 4 odd beasts roared and pounced towards the 4 people. However, the flying swords were too fast. Puff, 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 puff. For consecutive piercing sounds could be heard, and the huge body of the odd beast fell to the ground with a loud bang. Dust flew everywhere, and it died on the spot. Ha ha! The blood and heart of the odd beasts are extremely good ingredients for concocting medicine. We were extremely lucky to have encountered and killed these odd beasts. One of the male cultivators said with a smile. The 4 people walked towards the corpse of the odd beast, and only then did they see Lin Feng and Ziyuanyuan not far away. The 4 people only glanced at Lin Feng for a moment before moving on. Lin Feng was only a martial general, so he couldn't enter their eyes. However, Ziyuanyuan attracted their attention. The 3 male cultivators were stunned. They didn't expect to meet such a beautiful girl next to the lake. The female cultivator was also beautiful, but after seeing Ziyuanyuan, she couldn't help but feel jealous. The cultivator in green smiled and said, "I'm Fandi. How should I address you, brother?" Lin Feng cupped his fists and said, "Lin Feng, this is my cousin, Ziyu." Lin Feng didn't know who these 4 people were, so he didn't say much. Fandi smiled and said, "So it's Brother Lin. We're all core disciples of the Longyun sect. This is senior brother Song Tianwu. This is junior brother Li Muge. and this is senior sister Li Ruoya. The young cultivator in white was the Song Tianwu mentioned by Fandi, and he should be the leader of their small team. The other young cultivator in black should be Li Muge, said Lin Feng while bowing hand over fist. Good morning. The female cultivator named Li Ruoya took out the blood, heart, and horn of the odd beasts. She didn't take the rest of the things, but these 3 things were the most valuable. Song Tianwu stared at Zi Yuanyu and from time to time, and his eyes flashed with amazement from time to time. This made Lin Feng frown slightly, but he didn't say much. Song Tianwu asked with a smile, "Where did Brother Lin and cousin come from? How did you appear near the magnetic fog lake?" Lin Feng said, "We were cultivating in a sect in the East Province. We crossed the magnetic fog lake with another ship and planned to return to our family." I see. Are you going to Fog City? I think we can go together and take care of each other on the way, Song Tianwu said. Lin Feng didn't like the way Song Tianwu looked at Zi Yuan, and he didn't know the character of these people. So he declined politely, "We have to turn back to visit a cousin's house in a small town on the way, and then we can go to Fog City. So, I'm afraid we're not going the same way as you." Song Tianwu thought it was a pity. He smiled and said, "In that case, let's say goodbye here. Maybe we can meet again in Fog City. We will stay in Fog City for a few days." "It would be great if we could meet again," Lin Feng said politely and left with Zi Yuan. Song Tianwu stared at Zi Yuan's back and shook his head. "Why is senior brother Song so enthusiastic?" Li Ruoya said with a faint smile. Li Muge said with a faint smile, "Could it be that senior brother has taken a fancy to the girl named Zi Yuan?" Fandi rubbed his chin and said, "That young girl really does have a unique charm. No wonder senior brother looks at her differently." Song Tianwu shook his head with a smile and said, "That girl gave me a strange feeling. You should know that my martial spirit is the perceptive martial spirit. In addition to being able to sense all kinds of treasures, I can also sense some hidden bloodline power. The girl's bloodline seems to be very complicated." Fandi said, "Look at the girl's eyes. She seems to be a snake woman." Li Muge frowned. "Snake women are enchanting. Although the girl named Zi Yuan is young, she is indeed beautiful. But in terms of bloodline, the snake woman's bloodline is very lowly. Well, let's go to Fog City to find Master Gu Yun to refine the blue blood pill," Song Tianwu said. Hearing the words blue blood pill, Fandi, Li Muge, and Li Ruoya all showed extremely excited expressions. The 4 of them didn't stop and quickly rushed to the distance, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Chapter 453. Fog City was an especially large city. It was about the size of 5 Crimson Fire cities and had a population of around 30 million. Because Fog City was located at the border between the East Province and the Desolate Realm, it was very lively. Lin Feng and Zi Yuan arrived at Fog City. There was a thick fog outside Fog City. However, the entire Fog City was enveloped by a spell formation, so it wasn't covered by fog. Within Fog City, the factions were very complicated. It was said that there was 1 sect, 3 clans, and 18 factions. This sect was called the Heavenly Thunder sect. It was an ancient sect that was very powerful. The 3 clans were the Nalan, Hellion, and Gongsun clans. Although these 3 clans weren't considered ancient factions, they were still very powerful because they had Yin-Yang realm experts. The 18 factions were relatively weak. Only a few of the top clans had Yin-Yang realm experts. As for the rest of the clans, even the strongest expert was only a martial king. Of course, Lin Feng didn't plan to visit the various factions in Fog City. He planned to rest in Fog City for 2 to 3 days before deciding on his future. "Sir, there's a bookstore there. It's definitely selling introductions to the various factions in the Desolate Realm. Let's go," Zi Yuan said. "Okay." Lin Feng nodded and entered the bookstore with Zi Yuan. There were more than 10 customers in the bookstore. Some were quietly reading, while others were strolling around. Lin Feng discovered that the bookstore was selling rare martial arts manuals. There were even some spirit formations and alchemy manuals. Of course, they were all relatively simple spirit formations and alchemy manuals, but they were still very extraordinary. "Sir, what kind of books are you looking for?" the shopkeeper asked with a smile. "I want books that introduce the various factions in the Desolate Realm," Lin Feng said. The Chronicle of Wasteland has a very detailed record. The shopkeeper took out a book and gave it to Lin Feng. How much is it? Lin Feng asked. 30 gold coins. The shopkeeper said. Lin Feng clicked his tongue. 30 gold coins for a book was quite shady, but he was too lazy to care about that. He paid the money and sat down with Zi Yuan at a table not far away to read the contents of the book. The divine land of the East County was one of the poorest states among the 3,000 states. It did not even have an ancient force. One had to know that the division of powers in the 3,000 prefectures was extremely strict. There were ancient powers, desolate ancient powers, and ancient holy lands, ancient royal dynasties. Other than these powers, the Martial Soul Guild, the Alchemist Guild, and the Spirit Array Caster Guild were extremely powerful. However, because these three powers were neutral powers, they didn't participate in the struggle for hegemony in the Tianwu continent's 3,000 continents. Therefore, very few people would mention these three powers. There were many forces in the Wasteland region. Among them, the four strongest forces were Nebula Pavilion, 10,000 Laws Sect, Deity Sword Villa, and Blue Cloud Sect. These four forces had all reached the level of an ancient force and were overseen by almighty experts. Nebula Pavilion, 10,000 Laws Sect, and Deity Sword Villa were still powerful, but the Blue Cloud Sect had declined. It was said that the Blue Cloud Sect's secret technique, the Heaven-Seizing Art, had been lost, causing the sect to gradually weaken. The Heaven-Seizing Art was a secret technique that had shaken the 3,000 prefectures in the past. A single Heaven-Seizing Art had crushed countless experts in the 3,000 prefectures. Unfortunately, such a powerful secret technique had become a legend that would never be seen again. Blue Cloud Sect. Lin Feng muttered. Zi Yuan grabbed Lin Feng's hand and said with some heartache, "Young master, are you homesick?" This was because the small city where the Lin family lived was called Green Cloud City. Now that he saw the words Blue Cloud Sect, he couldn't help but think of the past. Lin Feng smiled and said, "No." However, his desolate expression was clearly different from what he had said. In addition to the four ancient powers, there were also 10 ancient powers. These 10 ancient powers included sects, ancient sects, and clans with long histories. Although their heritage might not be as long as the four ancient powers, these ancient powers still produced many experts. "Let's go and eat something," Lin Feng said. Zi Yuan nodded obediently and left the bookstore with Lin Feng. There was a restaurant not far away. Lin Feng and Zi Yuan went to the second floor and asked for a table near the window. They ordered some food, which was quickly served, and the two of them began to eat. Thump, thump, thump. At that moment, a group of people came upstairs. The leader was a young man who was tall and thin. His footsteps were a little light, and his face was slightly pale. He had obviously overindulged. "Young master, look over there." One of the young man's servants suddenly pointed at Zi Yuan. The young man's eyes lit up and he said, "Is she a snake woman? I've heard that snake women are the most seductive. She's extremely flirtatious in bed." The young man waved his hand and quickly walked over. "I'm Na Lan Kong. How should I address you, brother?" the young man asked when he arrived at Lin Feng's table. However, his eyes were fixed on Zi Yuan, which made Lin Feng very unhappy. "Are you done eating? If you're done, let's go." Lin Feng placed a gold coin on the table and looked at Zi Yuan. Zi Yuan nodded and stood up to leave with Lin Feng. Nalan Kang's face darkened. "What's wrong? Didn't you hear what I asked you?" Lin Feng said indifferently, "We've just met by chance. Why do you need to know my name?" Na Lan Kong smiled and said, "That's not necessarily true. Maybe we'll become familiar with each other." "Ha ha ha ha, Nalan Kong, put away that face of yours. Don't pretend to be approachable. Who in Fog City doesn't know your true nature? You've only taken a fancy to the pretty young lady by this young master's side." A disdainful laugh was heard. In the next moment, a young man in white walked down from the third floor. This young man in white was much more pleasing to the eye than Na Lan Kong. He was very handsome, had a slender figure, and had a smile on his face that was like a spring breeze. It was easy for people to have a good impression of him. When he saw this person, Na Lan Kang's expression sank. He said in a neutral tone, "Helian Zhe, don't make yourself sound so noble. If I, Nalong Kong, like a woman. I'll use normal methods to obtain her. I'm not like you. TSK. I heard that there's a guy in Fog City who even dared to take advantage of his father's ninth madam. Unfortunately, he was discovered before he could do anything and was imprisoned for a year. You. Helian Zay's expression became extremely gloomy. Lin Feng could tell that neither Na Lan Kong nor Helian Zay were good people. Chapter 454. Please make way. My cousin and I still have matters to attend to. Don't block our way. Lin Feng said indifferently. He could guess Nailan Kong and Helian Zay's identities. Lin Feng guessed that they were the young masters of the Nailan and Helian clans of the Fog City's 3 clans. Fuck. Brat, our young master didn't allow you to leave. How dare you leave? Are you tired of living? One of Nailan Kang's servants reprimanded him coldly. Lin Feng's expression darkened. These people were too arrogant. Nailan Kong and Helian Zay had brought more than 10 people with them, and many of them were experts. Lin Feng sensed that there were at least 4 martial kings. This wasn't a good place to fight. It would be fine if he was alone in the Fog City, but he had Zi Yuan with him. It would be difficult for him to escape. Lin Feng suppressed his anger and said coldly, "Then what are you trying to do? Are you trying to force us to stay here?" Nailan Kong smiled and said, "Brother, don't misunderstand. My servant doesn't know how to speak. I'll reprimand him when we get back. I see that you and I are fated to meet, so I want to invite you to my Nailan clan. We can drink and chat happily, don't you think so?" Lin Feng knew what Nailan Kong was trying to do. He said indifferently, "Sorry, I'm not interested." Nailan Kong, I think you should just forget about it. Can't you tell that this brother has serious doubts about your character? If I were you, I would leave tactfully so as not to embarrass myself here. Helian Zay took the opportunity to mock Nailan Kong. He didn't get along well with Nailan Kong, so he wouldn't let go of an opportunity to attack Nailan Kong. Nailan Kang's expression darkened. He didn't look at Helian Zay, but at Lin Feng instead. "Brother, you probably don't know who I am, right? I, Nailan Kong, am the son of the Nailan clan's patriarch. My status is noble, and I've lowered myself to befriend you. Are you not giving me any face?" At this point, there was a hint of coldness in his tone. Helian Zay curled his lips and said disdainfully, "That's enough. Who doesn't know that you have an ulterior motive? Brother, you don't have to worry. I, Helian Zay, can't stand people who rely on their family background to do whatever they want. Brother, if you leave with me, Nailan Kong won't dare to touch you." Seeing Nailan Kong and Helian Zay's faces, Lin Feng could only sneer. The two of them were the same. No matter what they did, their goal was Zi Yuanyuan. Nailan Kong. Nailan Kong. Lin Feng said coldly, "Helian Zay, right? I appreciate your kindness. Nailan Kong, I also appreciate your kindness. My cousin and I really have something to do. I didn't mean to refuse, so please make way. If there's a chance, I'll invite you to a gathering next time. I'll punish myself with 3 cups of wine." This time, not only Nailan Kong, but even Helian Zay's face darkened. In the eyes of these two, this boy was so unappreciative. Nailan Kong sneered, "We don't care if you leave or not, but the one beside you can't leave." Helian Zay said, "Sell this snake girl to me, and I'll send you out of the city. How about it?" Now that the two had made it clear, they obviously had no scruples. How impressive. There was a sneer. Deng 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 deng, for young practitioners came over, and the one who spoke was Li Muge. These 4 people were Song Tianwu, Li Muge, Fan Di, and Li Ruoya of the Longyun sect. They had just come out from Master Gu Yun's place, and each of them got a blue blood pill, so they were very excited. They planned to have a meal in the restaurant, find a place to rest, and then return to the sect to refine the blue blood pill. But they didn't expect to meet Lin Feng and Zi Yuan here. Brother Song, Brother Li, Brother Fan, Fairy Li, Lin Feng made a fist salute. Zi Yuan also saluted slightly. The 4 nodded slightly. "Who are you? How dare you meddle in my business?" Nailan Kong looked coldly at the 4 people coming over. Helian Zay also said indifferently, "Today is really strange. There are so many people who are not afraid of death." The Longyun sect, where Song Tianwu, Li Muge, and the others were from, was ranked second among the top 10 ancient forces in the Waste Domain. It was very powerful, As the core disciples of the Longyun sect, their identities were naturally extraordinary. How dare an aristocratic family in a small fog city be so rude to them? Naturally, the four of them didn't look too good. Li Muge said coldly, "Do you know who you were talking to?" "Pa," but the response to Li Muge was a slap from Nailan Kong. Li Muge was stunned by the slap. Song Tianwu, Fandi, and Li Ruoya were also stunned on the spot. Someone dared to slap the core disciples of the Longyun sect. "How dare you slap me?" Li Muge screamed in disbelief. Helianze kicked her. With a bang, Li Muge, who was unprepared, was kicked away by Helianze for more than 10 meters. Ouch! Li Muge immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. With a flop, she fell to the ground. "You are courting death." Song Tianwu and the other two who came to their senses roared angrily. "How dare you say we are courting death? I think it is you who are courting death. You are really reckless. How dare you meddle in our business in Fog City? Today, let the young master teach you how to behave. Beat them up and teach them a lesson." Nailan Kong was used to being arrogant. He waved his hand and shouted arrogantly, "Yes, master." The people around Nailan Kong shouted loudly and were about to start. "You all come together. Don't ruin the reputation of our Hellion family." Helianze also waved his hand. "Yes, master." The group of people from the Hellion family also answered. Lin Feng was a little speechless. These two people were really too arrogant. Didn't they know that there was always someone better than them? Li Muge was beaten so badly. There would be a good show to watch. Nailan Kong and Helianze's subordinates were about to start. Song Tianwu and the other two had been trembling with anger. "Open your dog eyes and see what this is." Song Tianwu took out a token and held it in his hand. Chapter 455. When the rest of the guards heard that these people were the core disciples of the Longyun sect, how would they dare to make a move? They were all scared to death. As the second most powerful force among the top 10 ancient forces, the Longyun sect would be the sixth most powerful force in the Waste Domain. Although the Nailan family and the Hellion family were also very powerful, they were nothing in front of the Longyun sect. There were at least 3 powerful people in the Longyun sect. It was not something that the Nailan family and the Hellion family could provoke. Now everyone was looking at Song Tianwu and the other 3 in horror. "I'll take your lives, you 2 bastards." Li Muge got up from the ground, and his face was completely distorted. He was a core disciple of the Longyun sect, but he was beaten up like this in the small fog city. This was simply a great shame. It would be fine if it was not spread back to the sect, but if it was, how could he face others in the future? Now Li Muge couldn't wait to cut Nailan Kong and Helianze into pieces. Misunderstanding. It's really a misunderstanding. Nailan Kong looked at Li Muge in horror. His previous arrogance disappeared in an instant, and now there was only horror. Helianze on the side was the same. He kept begging, "It's our fault. We didn't recognize Mount Tai. We are willing to compensate." Although they were all second-generation figures, obviously, this Helianze was much stronger than Nailan Kong. In such an irreversible situation, Nailan Kong only cared about begging for mercy, and Helianze even knew the method of compensation to save him. Lin Feng looked at Nailan Kong and Helianze indifferently. These two were simply jackals of the same tribe. Now that they had kicked an iron plate, they deserved it. They were not worthy of sympathy at all. Clap, clap, 2 loud slaps were heard. Li Muge rushed over and slapped Helianze and Nailan Kang's faces fiercely. Helianze and Nailan Kong were sent flying by the force. Wow! The 2 of them spat out large mouthfuls of blood in midair. Within the blood they spat out were a few teeth. Helianze and Nailan Kong really deserved it. Some diners in the restaurant were discussing in a low voice. Helianze and Nailan Kong were arrogant and domineering in the Fog City. Naturally, they had done a lot of outrageous things. Now that they had kicked an iron plate and were sent flying with a slap, they felt very satisfied. Junior fellow apprentice, the Hellion family and the Nailan family have to show some respect. Song Tianwu reminded him. If it were anyone else, he would have just killed them. However, these 2 families had Yin-Yang realm experts overseeing them, so he had to be careful. Li Muge rushed over and punched and kicked Helianze and Nailan Kong. Li Muge rushed over and punched and kicked Helian Zhe and Nailan Kong. Li Muge rushed, punched, and kicked Helian Zhe and Nailan Kong. Lin Feng looked at Zi Yuan with a smile. When this little girl first followed Lin Feng, she was very timid because of her unfortunate experience. But after such a long time, Zi Yuan had become a little scheming. Being stared at by her child with a faint smile, Zi Yuan blushed slightly and couldn't help but pinch Lin Feng's palm. Seeing the intimate action between Zi Yuan and Lin Feng, Song Tianwu couldn't help frowning slightly. Song Tianwu was obviously not just suspicious of Zi Yuan's bloodline, as he had said to Li Muge, Fan Di, and Li Ruoya before. Obviously, he had some other thoughts about Zi Yuan. Song Tianwu's change of expression couldn't be concealed from Lin Feng. This was also the reason why Lin Feng was unwilling to have more contact with Song Tianwu and the others. Ah, spare our lives. Please spare us. We're willing to compensate. No matter what the price is, we're willing to compensate. Nailan Kong and Helian Zhe were beaten black and blue, but they didn't dare to fight back. They curled up on the ground and begged for mercy. The guards of the Nailan family and the Helian family were even more afraid to help. Offending the people of the Longyun sect was courting death. Are you junior brother Li Muge? Why don't you give me some face and spare these two? Just then, a voice came from the third floor. Lin Feng looked over and saw a child in blue standing in the corridor and looking at them. This person has such a powerful cultivation. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. This blue-clothed practitioner had a restrained aura. Lin Feng guessed that he was at the peak of the 10th heaven of the Martial King realm and would break through the Yinyang realm sooner or later. It seems that this person should be a disciple of the Heavenly Thunder sect. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He knew that there was a sect in Fog City, which referred to the Heavenly Thunder sect, an ancient force. Greetings, senior brother Lei Yun. Song Tianwu and the others obviously knew this young strong man and didn't dare to neglect him. They all cupped their fists and saluted him. Don't be so polite, junior brothers. The practitioner of the Heavenly Thunder sect named Lei Yun waved his hand with a smile. Although Li Muge couldn't wait to kill Helian Zhe and Nailan Kong, Lei Yun's identity was extraordinary. Now that he personally came out to plead for mercy, he had to give some face to Lei Yun. Moreover, Lei Yun might break through the Yinyang realm soon. It would be beneficial to make friends with Lei Yun now. Senior brother Lei Yun, how dare I not obey your plea? Li Muge cupped his fists and looked at Helian Zhe and Nailan Kong fiercely, saying, Get out of here. Don't let me see you again. Otherwise, I will tear you into pieces. Yes, let's get out of here. Helian Zhe and Nailan Kong hurriedly got up. Thank you for your help, senior brother Lei Yun. Before leaving, Nailan Kong and Helian Zhe cupped their fists towards Lei Yun, full of gratitude. Okay. Lei Yun nodded slightly. Helian Zhe and Nailan Kong walked out. Before leaving, they looked at Lin Feng fiercely, full of resentment and murderous intent. Lin Feng was a little speechless. It wasn't me who hit you. Why are you looking at me like this? Let's go. Helian Zhe and Nailan Kong waved their hands and quickly went downstairs with their subordinates. Out of the restaurant, Nailan Kong said fiercely, Are we really going to swallow our anger? Helian Zhe said gloomily, We can't afford to offend those people from the Longyun sect, but that boy must die. Nailan Kang's face twisted. Yes, that boy must die. If it weren't for him, how could we be beaten up like this? And we have offended several core disciples of the Longyun sect. Helian Zhe said, We will wait and follow that boy. When he leaves the city, we will kill him. Chapter 456. Why don't you come up and have a chat with me? Lei Yun smiled. It's our honor to be invited by senior brother Lei. Song Tianwu and the others cupped their fists. How should I address you, brother? Lei Yun looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng had a good impression of Lei Yun. He was strong, but he was also very approachable. Lei Yun cupped his fists and said, Lin Feng, this is my cousin, Zi Yuan. Brother Lin, Miss Zi Yuan, why don't you come and have a drink with me? Lei Yun smiled. Lin Feng replied, Thank you for your invitation, brother Lei. The group then went to a private room on the 3rd floor. Song Tianwu smiled and said, Senior brother Lei, you're really in the mood to drink by yourself? Lei Yun smiled and said, When I'm tired from cultivating, I'll come out alone and think about what I did wrong. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Lei Yun's way of doing things was to reflect on himself. This was one of the most outstanding qualities of a cultivator, but it was also something that very few people could do. Most people could only see their own strengths, but not their weaknesses. In other words, they could see their own weaknesses but were unwilling to touch them. Lei Yun, on the other hand, was able to examine his own weaknesses. It was no wonder that he was so strong at such a young age. Lei Yun ordered someone to bring out new dishes and wine. He smiled at Song Tianwu and the others and said, "Junior brothers, when did you come to Fog City? In the past, we went out to train together, but you didn't look for me when you came to Fog City. Do you not see me as a friend?" Song Tianwu hurriedly said, "We didn't think about this matter properly. I hope senior brother doesn't blame us. We originally planned to visit you after we were done with everything, but we didn't expect to meet you here." Li Ruoya smiled and said, "That's right, senior brother. Perhaps this is fate." "Haha, then let's drink to this fate." Lei Yun smiled. Everyone raised their glasses. Lei Yun looked at Lin Feng. He did not look down on Lin Feng because of his low cultivation level. Instead, he smiled and said, "Brother Lin, this must be your first time in the Fog City, right?" Lin Feng nodded. "Indeed." Lei Yun replied, "Actually, our Fog City's people are quite friendly. Brother Lin, you should know that no matter where you are, there will always be some vermin." The vermin that Lei Yun mentioned was naturally Nailan Kong and Helian Zhe. Lin Feng smiled and said, "I don't care about these things. I'm just a passerby. There's no need to take it to heart." Lei Yun smiled and said, "Brother Lin, you're really magnanimous. But you can't let your guard down, especially the disciples of aristocratic families. They're usually narrow-minded, so you have to be careful." Lin Feng was slightly surprised, but he immediately nodded and said, "Thank you for your reminder, Brother Lei." Lei Yun smiled. He knew that Lin Feng was a smart person and had already understood his meaning. Although Lin Feng's cultivation didn't seem to be very high, Lei Yun had an intuition that if he wanted to win against this Lin Feng, he might have to pay a heavy price. Although this feeling seemed very absurd, Lei Yun had always believed in his intuition very much. So, if he helped Lin Feng casually, maybe there would be a return in the future? Even if there was no return, he wouldn't lose anything. It was just a casual remark. They chatted quite congenially. Especially after drinking some wine, they felt much more familiar with each other. Li Muge put his arm around Lin Feng's shoulder and said, "Brother Lin, I guess you're 18 or 19 years old this year, right? You're still in the martial general realm. Your talent is not very good. I don't think you should go back to the sect in the East County in the future. The East County is far worse than our West domain. After you go home, tell the elders at home, and then bring your cousin to our Longyun sect. At that time, I'll help you get the identity of an inner disciple. As for Miss Ziyuan, she can be an outer disciple first. When her cultivation is improved in the future, she can continue to be promoted." Lin Feng couldn't help but smile bitterly. Li Muge was obviously drunk. He said with a smile, "Thank you for your kindness, Brother Li. I'll think about it carefully." "Haha, straightforward. Come on, let's continue to drink." Li Muge raised her glass and gulped it down. They stayed in the city for 3 days. On this day, Lei Yun came to see them off in person. Lin Feng, Song Tianwu and others said goodbye to Lei Yun. Outside Fog City, Song Tianwu said with a smile, "Brother Muge was not drunk that day. Brother Lin, you can think about it. Of course, remember, you must bring Miss Ziyuan to our Longyun sect. I think Miss Ziyuan is talented. With more training, she may be able to improve her cultivation quickly." Lin Feng murmured in his heart. Song Tianwu was a good person, but he was too concerned about Ziyuan. This was the reason why Lin Feng was really guarding against these people. He didn't want to fall out with these people because of Ziyuan. Lin Feng cupped his fists and said with a smile, "I'll definitely think about it." "Well, then let's part here." Song Tianwu nodded with satisfaction. "Brother Lin, Miss Ziyuan, have a safe journey. Brother Lin, be sure to bring Miss Ziyuan to our Longyun sect." Fan Di and Li Muge were very enthusiastic and even a little reluctant. It was unknown whether they were reluctant to see Lin Feng leave or reluctant to see Ziyuan leave. "See you later." Lin Feng cupped his fists and left with Ziyuan. Leroya said, Lin Feng is a good person. Unfortunately, he is 19 years old this year, and his cultivation is only at the 7th heavenly layer of the martial general realm. Then she shook her head slightly and stopped thinking about it. In her opinion, even if Lin Feng really came to Longyan sect in the future, there would not be too many interactions between them. After all, there was a gap between their identities. Well, let's go, Song Tianwu said. The few of them nodded, and each of them took out a flying sword. The flying swords that they took out quickly grew bigger. They jumped onto the flying swords and drove them into the distance. In the blink of an eye, they had disappeared without a trace. Lin Feng and Ziyuan quickly moved in another direction, which was the direction of Northern Wasteland City. Northern Wasteland City was one of the 10 great ancient capitals of the Wasteland City. Many great forces had offices in Northern Wasteland City. Lin Feng wanted to go to Northern Wasteland City to see if the 4 great sects were recruiting disciples. Little boy, you can't escape. A cold voice came from behind. Dozens of silhouettes were rushing over. The ones in the lead were Nalan Kong and Helian Zhe. Behind Nalan Kong and Helian Zhe were 6 strong cultivators of the Martial King realm. Nalan Kong and Helian Zhe had obviously come prepared. They wanted to kill Lin Feng here. Chapter 457. Prince, there are so many of them. Ziyuan's face turned deathly pale when she saw them. Lin Feng said, Don't worry, it's all right. Little boy, you won't be able to escape. Stop quickly, and I'll give you a quick death. If I catch up with you, I'll make you wish you were dead. Nalan Kang's voice was filled with hatred. Nalan Kong was smiling evilly. Little boy, even if you surrender, I'll make you wish you were dead. Lin Feng obviously ignored Nalan Kong. He didn't believe Nalan Kang's words. He said to Ziyuan, Hurry up and fly ahead. Don't wait for me. I'll catch up with you once I'm done with these people. But Prince... Ziyuan wanted to say something, but Lin Feng interrupted her. Lin Feng patted her head and said, Be good. Ziyuan's lips trembled. She knew that her prince had stayed behind to fight with his life on the line. Ziyuan hated herself for being so weak. If she had been strong enough, her prince wouldn't have had to stay behind to fight with his life on the line. He had stayed behind because he was worried that she wouldn't be able to escape. That was why her prince had stayed behind to fight with his life on the line. He wanted to buy time for her to escape. If she had been strong enough, she would have been able to help her prince. But now, she couldn't do anything. Ziyuan hated herself for being so weak, but she knew that she couldn't stay here because her cultivation was too low. If she stayed here, she would only be a burden to the young master. She activated her robe and floated in the air before quickly flying off into the distance. When Helian Zhe saw that Lin Feng had stayed behind and Ziyuan had left, he said disdainfully, Little boy, do you think you can stop us? I suddenly thought of a good idea. We won't kill you. We'll capture you and bring that little girl here. We'll show you how we do it. Haha, that's a great idea. I can't wait. Nalan Kong burst into laughter. When Lin Feng heard them, he looked glum. Those 2 people were worse than animals. You're all courting death. Lin Feng looked at Nalan Kong and Helian Zhe coldly. Kid, is there something wrong with your head? Even now, you still dare to boast shamelessly before us? Nalan Kang's face was full of disdain. Attack. Helian Zhe waved his hand. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than a dozen figures quickly flew out. These were more than a dozen martial generals. To deal with Lin Feng, a small fry in the martial general realm, the other party did not take him seriously at all, nor did they send out martial king realm experts. These experts had hideous smiles on their faces. They looked at Lin Feng as if they were looking at a dead man. In their hearts, they were even thinking that after the young master was done with that girl, would he also let everyone have a good time? Nalan Kong and Helian Zhe had done this more than once or twice. They had once defiled some women, and after defiling them, they would directly reward them to their subordinates. Things like being raped to death by a group of subordinates had happened before. In fact, such things were happening every day, every hour, and every moment. Wherever there were people, there would be desire. Where there was desire, there would be sin. And this time, it was Lin Feng who had encountered it. Boom, boom, boom. More than a dozen martial general realm experts all attacked Lin Feng. Lin Feng's expression was cold. He quickly flew out like lightning and rushed into the crowd. Ordinary martial general realm cultivators were like ants in Lin Feng's eyes. "Kid, are you courting death?" Seeing that Lin Feng actually dared to take the initiative to attack, the martial general realm cultivators immediately felt that they had lost face. They all looked indifferent as they rushed towards Lin Feng. Bang bang bang. Lin Feng channeled the Sky Tyrant lightning art. Bolts of lightning surged out and attacked these people. Following the sound of violent collisions one after another, the martial general realm cultivators were sent flying. Cracking sounds were also heard. It was unknown how many bones in their bodies were broken. The purple lightning ruthlessly bombarded their bodies, directly tearing them apart and killing them on the spot. More than a dozen martial general realm cultivators were killed by Lin Feng in one round. How is this possible? Nailan Kong and Helian Zay's expressions were as if they had seen a ghost. They exclaimed in disbelief. Wasn't that kid in the martial general realm? How could he be so powerful? Could it be that this kid is hiding some powerful magic treasure on him? Did this kid borrow the power of a magic treasure? Nailan Kong and Helian Zay thought of the same thing at the same time and thought of this. Boundless greed immediately appeared on their faces. If they could obtain such a powerful magic treasure, wouldn't they be able to greatly increase their battle strength? Thinking of this, Nailan Kong and Helian Zay shouted, "Capture him alive! We must capture him alive! Haha, this kid really has a lot of secrets on him." The two of them had the same idea. They were even thinking about how to make Lin Feng give up on such a powerful magic treasure after they captured him. Both Nailan Kong and Helian Zay were thinking about this problem. After all, there was only one magic treasure. It had to be said that these two fellows were thinking quite far ahead. Hearing Nailan Kong and Helian Zay's orders, the remaining 30 martial general realm cultivators rushed forward and attacked Lin Feng. More than 30 people besieging one person. In these people's opinion, Lin Feng would definitely be unable to resist. Helian Zay and Nailan Kong coldly looked at the besieged Lin Feng. The 6 martial king realm cultivators also looked on coldly as the 30 martial general realm cultivators besieged Lin Feng. Humph! Lin Feng coldly laughed. Facing the 30 martial general realm cultivators besieging him, he moved again. Lin Feng rushed into the crowd as if he had entered an uninhabited area. Bang bang bang. Dense purple lightning exploded, and the martial general realm cultivators were sent flying. Their bodies exploded, and they died on the spot. Accompanied by blood-curdling screams, more than 30 martial general realm cultivators were killed by Lin Feng in the blink of an eye. When Nailan Kong and Helian Zay saw that so many people had died, not only were they not afraid, they were even more excited. In their opinion, the stronger Lin Feng was, the more powerful Lin Feng's magic treasure was. So what if a few dozen of their subordinates had died? In any case, the Nailan clan and the Helian clan were large and powerful. After these people died, they could continue to recruit strong cultivators. There were many people who wanted to join the two great clans. It's up to you. Nailan Kong and Helian Zay looked at the 6 martial kings. In their opinion, even if Lin Feng relied on his magic treasure, he would still die under the joint attack of the 6 martial kings. "Prince, don't worry, we will definitely deal with this little brat." The corners of the 6 martial kings' mouths curled up. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 6 martial kings all moved and surrounded Lin Feng. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. Among the 6 martial kings, there were 2 martial kings of the 3rd celestial layer, 2 martial kings of the 4th celestial layer, 1 martial king of the 5th celestial layer, and 1 martial king of the 6th celestial layer. The most terrifying ones were the 2 martial kings of the 5th and 6th celestial layers. If they joined forces with the other 4 martial kings, they would definitely be able to kill him. Lin Feng was very clear about this. If he was the slightest bit careless, he would die. Chapter 458. Brat, what kind of treasure do you have? I'm really curious, said a cultivator of the 6th Tian of the Qi layer, looking at Lin Feng indifferently. You want to know? Kneel down and kowtow, and I might tell you. How about it? Lin Feng sneered. The strong cultivator of the 6th celestial layer was infuriated and said coldly, Infuriating me now is not a wise choice because you might lose your life because of it. Is that so? I don't think so. Lin Feng sneered. Do you think you can survive our siege? Sneered a Martial King expert of the Fifth Firmament. Do you think you can survive our siege? You're daydreaming. The other experts laughed disdainfully. Boom. 6 strong cultivators of the Huang Qi layer surrounded Lin Feng. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of violent collisions resounded. Lin Feng was in a lot of trouble, mainly because the 2 Fifth Firmament and 6th Firmament Martial King experts had put Lin Feng in a difficult situation. The 2 of them were exceptionally strong. They held Lin Feng back while the other 4 could attack Lin Feng with all their strength. Clang! A loud sound was heard and Lin Feng was sent flying. His face was pale. If it had been someone else, they would have been seriously injured. But Lin Feng's body was too strong, so he was able to withstand the terrifying power of the attack. Your body is so strong. Everyone was shocked. Nailan Kong shouted excitedly. It seems like this brat has an extremely powerful body tempering technique. Helian Zhe laughed loudly. That's great. Let's capture this brat and get all his secrets. The more secrets Lin Feng had, the more excited Nailan Kong and Helian Zhe became. They believed that no matter how many secrets Lin Feng had, they would eventually obtain them. Boom! The 6 experts of the Martial King realm attacked again. Lin Feng looked indifferent. He had to get rid of the cultivator of the 6th celestial layer. That cultivator was the strongest. If he could get rid of him, he would have a chance to turn the tables. If he couldn't deal with him, he would be in danger. Bang! The 2 sides started fighting again. Lin Feng was surrounded by 6 strong cultivators of the Huang Qi layer. Lin Feng was surrounded by danger and was blown away a few times. Brat, it's time to end this. The 6th Firmament Martial King expert flashed behind Lin Feng and fiercely punched Lin Feng, sending Lin Feng flying a few hundred meters away. There was a thump. Lin Feng fell into the forest and stopped moving. He wasn't killed, was he? The 5th Firmament Martial King expert frowned. The 6th Firmament Martial King expert said, I don't think so. I controlled the strength of my punch. He must have fainted. The 6 Martial King realm experts took a deep breath and withdrew the protective upstanding chi that enveloped their bodies. Master, that brat has been dealt with, the expert in the 6th heaven of the Martial King realm reported. Excellent. Let's go take a look. Nailan Kong and Helian Zhe waved their hands. The 2 of them and the 6 Martial Kings walked towards Lin Feng, but as soon as they reached Lin Feng's side, the 6th Firmament Martial King expert suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. He hugged his head and cried out in pain. Whoosh! At the same time, Lin Feng, who had been lying motionless on the ground, suddenly shot up and attacked the 6th Firmament Martial King expert. Just now, Lin Feng had only pretended to faint, because Lin Feng knew that when the opponent used the protective chi, it would be difficult for his soul sword to break through the protective chi and hurt the 6th Firmament Martial King expert. Therefore, he could only use his wits to win this battle. He pretended to have fainted. Sure enough, these people were fooled. Lin Feng seized this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and instantly activated his soul sword, attacking the 6th Firmament Martial King expert. Those people didn't have time to react. Lin Feng had already arrived in front of the cultivator of the 6th celestial layer and used his palm as a blade. Lin Feng slid through the air. Puff! A tearing sound was heard. The 6th Firmament Martial King expert's head directly flew into the sky. Blood spurted out. He died on the spot. Not good. This brat is cunning. Master, retreat quickly. The 5th Firmament Martial King expert was the first to react and shouted loudly. Nailan Kong and Helian Zhe paled and quickly retreated more than 10 meters. The 2 of them roared at the same time. Kill him. They were frightened by Lin Feng's methods. At this moment, they did not care about anything else. They just wanted to kill Lin Feng as soon as possible. Under the leadership of the 5th Firmament Martial King expert, the 5 Martial Kings once again rushed toward Lin Feng. But without the 6th Firmament Martial King expert holding the line, these people's defeat had long been doomed. Come out, archaic divine Emperor Qiongqi's clone. Lin Feng waved his right hand and a ray of light shot into the sky. Roar! The roar resounded through the forest. The two-headed Xiongqi rushed out and directly pounced on the fifth firmament martial king expert. Bang! The two sides collided fiercely. The fifth firmament martial king expert was immediately blocked by the two-headed Xiongqi. Lin Feng, on the other hand, activated the five devouring martial spirits and entered the strongest state. The ultimate state of the five martial spirits. Great fusion. Boom. The five devouring martial spirits fused together and formed a powerful confining magnetic field, enveloping the four martial king experts. Ah, how is this possible? The four martial king realm experts found that their movements had become extremely slow. Lin Feng walked toward the four people step by step. Go to hell. Along with that devilish voice, Yi Zichen's voice sounded. Whoosh. Lin Feng moved as fast as lightning. Puff, 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 puff. The sound of flesh being pierced rang out. Lin Feng held the black dragon sword and killed the four martial king experts in succession. Run! Nailin Kong and Helian Zhe were almost scared out of their wits. They turned around and fled. The fifth firmament martial king expert's expression changed drastically. He wanted to escape, but he was held back by the two-headed Xiongqi. Lin Feng rushed forward and cooperated with the two-headed Xiongqi. The two-headed Xiongqi firmly entangled the fifth firmament martial king expert, while Lin Feng slashed with the black dragon sword. No! The expert at the fifth heaven of the martial king realm let out a terrified cry. Poochie! But in the next moment, his head was chopped off by Lin Feng's sword. Blood splattered everywhere as the headless corpse fell to the ground. Nailin Kong and Helian Zhe frantically fled into the distance. They only wanted to escape now, and they were both trembling in fear. Whoosh! But at that moment, a figure descended from the sky and blocked the two of them. Lin Feng's golden wings were too fast. It was easy for him to catch up to them. Spare! But before Nailin Kong and Helian Zhe could say the word spare, Lin Feng had already swung the black dragon sword at the two of them. Puff puff! Two ripping sounds were heard. Nailin Kong and Helian Zhe felt pain in their necks. They reached out to cover their necks, but blood gushed out. How could this be? How could we die here? The two of them muttered, full of unwillingness. Then, they fell to the ground and twitched a few times before losing all signs of life. Chapter 459. Ziyuan was waiting for Lin Feng anxiously. From time to time, sparkling and translucent tears rolled down her cheeks. She looked so delicate and pitiful. I have to become a powerful cultivator in the future. I don't want to be a burden to my master anymore. Ziyuan bit her lip. Swoosh. In the distance, a silhouette flew over. When Ziyuan saw that familiar face, she was so happy that she cried and jumped into his arms. Master, you're finally back. I was so worried. Ziyuan wept like a pear blossom in the rain. Lin Feng comforted her. I'm fine, aren't I? We can't stay here any longer. Let's go. Lin Feng and Ziyuan quickly left. Fog City. The Nailin clan. Oh no, something big has happened. A guard of the Nailin clan rushed to Nailin Hong's study. The housekeeper who was waiting on him came out and said, Why are you in such a hurry? What's wrong with you? Yes, something has happened to the master, the guard said with a pale face. When he heard that something had happened to the master, the housekeeper's expression changed drastically. The clan leader only had one son, Nailin Kong. What happened? Nailin Hong walked out and asked gloomily. Nailin Hong looked like he was in his 40s. He had a medium build and an aura of superiority. The guard said in a panic, The master has been killed. What? Kong has been killed? Nailin Hong couldn't believe it. His face was distorted. Nailin Kong was the only son of the Nailin clan. Because Nailin Kong was the only son of the Nailin clan, even though Nailin Hong knew that Nailin Kong had committed crimes outside, he couldn't bear to punish Nailin Kong. But now, Nailin Kong had been killed. Who? Who did it? Nailin Hong shouted furiously. It was a young man with a young girl. The young master took a fancy to the young girl and chased after the young man, but he was killed. The guard said weakly, I don't care who that little brat is. I'll tear him to pieces and avenge Kong or... Nailin Hong roared. He didn't care who was right or wrong in this matter. Nailin Hong only knew that Nailin Kong was killed, and now he only wanted to take revenge. Do you have a portrait of that kid? Nailin Hong asked coldly. Yes, I've already asked the witnesses who saw him in the restaurant to draw a portrait of him. The guard took out a piece of paper. There was a picture of a bright and handsome young master. It was Lin Feng. Do you know which direction they fled in? Nailin Hong asked with a gloomy expression. The guard replied, It's said to be in the direction of the northern wasteland city. I'll go there personally. I'll cut him into pieces and avenge Kong. As soon as he finished speaking, Nailin Hong soared into the sky and flew into the distance. At the same time, in the Hellion family, the clan leader, Hellion Zhang, had a gloomy look in his eyes as he ordered, Bring the portrait and let the Hellion clan's death warriors chase after that brat. Even if we have to chase him to the ends of the earth, we must take his life. Yes. The third elder of the Hellion clan received the order and left to give instructions. The clan leader, Hellion Zhang, didn't let his hatred get to his head and directly chase after Lin Feng. The main reason was that Hellion Zhang had 5 sons, unlike Nailin Hong, who only had 1 son. More than a year ago, when Hellion Zhe had almost raped his beloved 9th madam, Hellion Zhang had already given up on his son. Of course, giving up on his son was one thing. But now that Hellion Zhe had been killed, Hellion Zhang had to avenge him. Northern Wasteland City, one of the 10 great ancient capitals of the Huangyu region. The Northern Wasteland City was gigantic. From a distance, it looked like a wild beast crouching on the horizon. It gave people a suffocating feeling. The city walls were 1,000 meters tall and made of an unknown black rock. The streets of the Northern Wasteland City were even wider. The main street was 50 or 60 meters wide, and there was an endless stream of people and carriages. No wonder it's one of the 10 great ancient capitals of the Huangyu region. Walking on the streets of the Northern Wasteland City, Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. This was the first time he had seen such a huge ancient city. When he had first seen it, he had indeed felt a sense of awe. Master, there are so many people in the Northern Wasteland City. Looking at the densely packed streets, Ziyuan couldn't help but stick out her tongue. Lin Feng said, The Northern Wasteland City is one of the 10 great ancient capitals of the Huangyu region. It's a place where cultivators gather. After pausing for a moment, Lin Feng continued, Let's find an inn to stay in first, then we'll think about the future. Okay. Ziyuan nodded obediently, following Lin Feng's advice. The two of them found an inn and asked for a room with 2 rooms. After resting for a day, Lin Feng planned to go to the place where the 4 great forces were stationed in the Northern Wasteland City to ask if they had any plans to recruit disciples. The 4 great forces were Nebula Pavilion, 10,000 Dharma Sect, Deity Sword Villa, and Blue Cloud Sect. Now that the Blue Cloud Sect was in decline, its strength had been left behind by the other 3 great forces. The other 3 great forces also had their own areas of expertise. Nebula Pavilion was good at soul cultivation, 10,000 Dharma Sect was good at various divine ability inheritances, and Deity Sword Villa was good at sword arts. As for the Blue Cloud Sect, Lin Feng didn't know what this sect was good at because its secret techniques had been lost. Lin Feng leaned towards joining Nebula Pavilion or 10,000 Dharma Sect. If he joined Nebula Pavilion, he would be able to learn the method of soul cultivation. In the future, he would be better at soul attacks. On the other hand, 10,000 Dharma Sect was better at secret techniques that were displayed through the physical body, such as various ancient divine abilities. Lin Feng and Ziyuan went to ask around, and he found out that the few great forces would recruit disciples every year. Of course, it wasn't easy to join these great forces, and one needed to be extremely talented in order to have a chance. If one didn't have talent, they wouldn't even be able to become an odd-job disciple. The place where they recruited disciples wasn't in the Northern Wasteland City, but in the 4 great ancient sects. Lin Feng planned to stay for a few days, and then go with Ziyuan to Nebula Pavilion and the other great forces to see if he could join them. On the way back, when Lin Feng and Ziyuan passed by the auction house, someone shouted, The auction will be held in 3 days. Those who want the auction strategy, come quickly. Many people gathered around. The auction strategy cost 1 gold coin, and it was only a few pieces of paper. It was ridiculously expensive, but it couldn't dampen everyone's enthusiasm. Lin Feng also bought an auction strategy and planned to go back and take a look to see if there was anything he needed. Of course, the auction items that were introduced in the auction strategy were only a portion of all the auction items. There were many precious auction items that weren't recorded, but even just a portion of the auction items was enough to shock people. Many treasures were enough to make people's hearts beat faster. Chapter 460. Silver Armor, a high-class precious weapon. It's as thin as a cicada's wings and is very comfortable to wear. Demon Hunting Sword, a divine sword made by a Fortune Realm cultivator using dark sky demon iron. It's indestructible and can cut through iron as if it were mud. Ancient Pill Recipes, a record of 36 ancient pills and the steps to concoct them. Underground Secret Territory Map, a record of a secret territory in the underground world. It's rumored that a Fortune Realm cultivator created this secret territory. It's highly possible that the Fortune Realm cultivator left behind his legacy. Lin Feng clicked his tongue when he saw the dazzling introduction. As expected of an ancient auction house like the Northern Wasteland City, the items sold here were incomparable to those sold in Sangaren City. Of course, Lin Feng knew that even the Northern Wasteland City auction house belonged to the ancient Jiang family. Lin Feng couldn't help but think of Jiang Yudi's beautiful face. Had she left Sangaren City? Blood Spirit Ghost Face Vine, a demonic vine that grows in the depths of the underground world. It's 3,100 years old and is the main ingredient used to concoct many pills. Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes locked onto an item. It was the Blood Spirit Ghost Face Vine, the main ingredient used to concoct the ancient blood demon pill. Lin Feng took a deep breath. Lin Feng had concocted the ancient blood spirit pill before. It was a pill that could increase the strength of one's bloodline. It had sold for a sky-high price at the Sangaren City auction house. The ancient blood demon pill was a pill that could restore one's bloodline memories. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Ziyuan has the blood of a snake woman, but it's not very strong. She should have the blood of a demonic snake in her body, right? Why hasn't it been restored? Is it because her blood isn't very strong? Or is it because it's being suppressed? Lin Feng could see that Ziyuan's cultivation talent wasn't very good. It was mainly because her blood was too weak. If the demonic snake bloodline within Ziyuan's body could be revived, then Ziyuan's cultivation talent would become extremely shocking. Even if she couldn't compare to those absolute geniuses, she would still be much stronger than ordinary people. We can buy the Blood Spirit Ghost Face Vine and concoct some ancient blood demon pills for Ziyuan. She hasn't been in a good mood lately because she wants to become stronger, but she's not very talented, said Lin Feng. Lin Feng naturally understood Ziyuan's thoughts very well. After several life and death crises, Ziyuan had always felt that she was the one who had dragged him down. She had always been in a state of deep self-blame. Although Lin Feng had always been trying to persuade Ziyuan, how could he not know? Ziyuan was still blaming herself and was unable to extricate herself. She found it hard to forgive herself. In addition, Ziyuan's cultivation speed was simply too slow, causing her to feel increasingly depressed. If this continued, Lin Feng was truly worried that something would happen to Ziyuan. Most of the time, a healthy person's body wouldn't have any problems, but when they were overwhelmed by negative emotions, it could lead to serious problems in their body and eventually lead to their death. On the other hand, some people who were seriously ill and didn't seem to be able to live for much longer could recover in the end. That was the impact of negative emotions on a person. Ziyuan's depression, anxiety, self-blame, sadness, and pain all made Lin Feng worried. Now, Lin Feng had found a way to help Ziyuan get rid of her negative emotions. After making up his mind to go to the auction house, Lin Feng put the auction house guide away. He wasn't interested in the other things. Over the next 3 days, Lin Feng studied the Secret Soul Technique. He could sense that the Secret Soul Technique was much more powerful than the Soul Sword Technique he had learned before. Once he mastered it, it would become even more terrifying. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The auction was finally held. People came and went in front of the auction house. It was bustling with noise and excitement. Naturally, not everyone was qualified to enter the auction house. Because the Northern Wasteland City was an ancient city, there were many strong cultivators, and the various influential groups were always at odds with each other. There was a limit to the number of people allowed to enter the auction house. Only those who were extremely strong or had extremely noble backgrounds were qualified to enter. Little boy, this auction house isn't a place for young people like you to enter. Hurry up and leave. Lin Feng and Ziyuan were stopped by a guard. Lin Feng flicked his finger and a card flew out. The guard caught it. That's a purple gold VIP card. The guard commander's expression suddenly changed. Jiang Yudi had given that card to Lin Feng, and it was a symbol of his status. The guard was a yin-yang cultivator, but when he saw the card, his expression changed again. Lin Feng's cultivation wasn't very high, but cultivation wasn't everything. Some people were born into powerful groups, and that was an advantage. The world wasn't fair. How should I address you, sir? Asked the guard cautiously. Only almighty cultivators could have such a card, but Lin Feng had one. The guard didn't understand why Lin Feng had such a card. A purple gold VIP card? Who is that little boy? Many people were astonished. Whether they were people who were about to enter the auction house or cultivators who were just watching, they all looked at Lin Feng in shock. They obviously knew what that card meant. What? Do you really want to dig out my background after entering the auction house? Sister Yudi didn't say that when she gave me this VIP card. Lin Feng said indifferently. When the guard heard Lin Feng say, Sister Yudi, his body trembled. He naturally thought of Jiang Yudi. He carefully handed the VIP card to Lin Feng and smiled. So you're a friend of Miss Yudi. Please don't blame me, sir. I'm just doing my job. Lin Feng nodded and put the VIP card away. Sir, if you see Miss Yudi, please send my regards to her. I'm Situ Ming. The guard looked at Lin Feng hopefully. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. A yin-yang realm cultivator could be considered a big shot in any organization, but in a powerful organization like the ancient Jiang family, their status could only be considered ordinary. The ancient Jiang family, which had conferred titles to the gods of the ancient Vermilion Bird Pavilion, was really terrifying. All right, Lin Feng nodded. The guard called Situ Ming rubbed his hands excitedly. He quickly called a beautiful servant girl over and asked her to bring Lin Feng and Ziyuan to the VIP box. The servant girl knew that Lin Feng had an extraordinary status, so she served him carefully. Lin Feng and Ziyuan were led into the auction house by the servant girl. Chapter 461. The auction house could hold about 10,000 people. There were VIP boxes set up in the middle of the floor. The servant girl led Lin Feng and Ziyuan to one of the VIP boxes. Once the curtain of the VIP box was pulled open, everything outside could be seen. However, the people outside could not see what was going on inside the VIP box. This was because the VIP box was covered by a restriction that prevented others from probing. Inside the VIP box, there was also an inner door. If the guests inside the VIP box did not want to expose themselves, they could leave through the inner door after the auction ended. Lin Feng and Ziyuan sat down as the servant girl served them tea. Then, she took out a booklet that was more than 10 pages thick and inlaid with gold. She said respectfully, Sir, all the auction items are recorded in this booklet. You can take a look at it first. If you see something you like, you can choose to bid for it when it's time for the auction. Okay, Lin Feng nodded, but he didn't flip through the booklet. Lin Feng was mainly here for the blood spirit ghost face vine. Outside, cultivators entered the auction house one after another. The seats that were originally slightly empty were quickly filled with people. Even in the northern wasteland city, the auction would only be held once every 3 months. So every time the auction was held, it would always attract a lot of people. Dong, dong, dong. 2 hours later, 3 gongs and drums were sounded. The auction house quieted down. 2 cultivators walked out. One was an old man, and the other was a beautiful female cultivator. This was the usual combination of auctions. I am Gu Tianma, the auctioneer of this auction. On behalf of the Northern Wasteland City Auction House, I welcome everyone. The old man was full of smiles. The female cultivator smiled sweetly and said, I am Song Yinner, the assistant auctioneer of this auction. I hope that everyone can compete enthusiastically because there are many good things to be auctioned today. Gu Tianma clapped his hands and a servant girl carried a tray onto the stage. All of a sudden, the temperature in the huge auction hall dropped. The first item is a jade coal toad. Gu Tianma lifted the brocade covering the tray and saw a transparent porcelain on the tray. Inside the porcelain was a dark green toad. The jade cold toad. It's that thing? Many people were shocked, and the entire auction house was in an uproar. Many pairs of fiery eyes looked at the jasper cold toad. Croak, croak, croak. The jade cold toad croaked. It wanted to jump out of the porcelain, but it was sealed in it. Sir, what's that jade cold toad? Why are so many people so excited? Asked Ziyuan. Said Linfeng. The jade ice toad is a strange beast. It's extremely rare. It's said that the jade ice toad can cure hundreds of poisons. No matter what kind of poison you have, the jade ice toad can cure it. Besides, it's said that the jade ice toad can also help you practice cultivation. If you practice ice skills, with the help of the jade ice toad, your cultivation speed will increase by a dozen times. At that moment, the auctioneer, Song Yin Air, said, the starting price of the jade cold toad is 5 million spiritual stones. Each increment must be at least 500,000 spiritual stones. Lin Feng was astonished. The starting price of the jade cold toad was really high. Normally, if the starting price was so high, the final price would rise to an unimaginable level. Let's begin, said Song Yin Air. 6 million, 7 million, 8 million, 30 million, 100 million, 300 million, 1 billion, 1,500 million, 3 billion. Many people joined in the bidding. Lin Feng was astonished. The price had reached 3 billion, but it didn't stop. It was obvious that the price was going to continue rising. However, after thinking about it, it seemed to be normal. The first item of the auction was called Good Start. Although it wasn't the most expensive item among all the auction items, it could usually be ranked in the top 5. Moreover, the Jasper Icy Toad was indeed a rare beast. Although the price was ridiculously high, to those top forces, they didn't lack spiritual stones. In the end, the Jade Cold Toad was sold for 4,500,000,000 spiritual stones. It was a sky-high price. With so many spiritual stones, even an ancient force could operate normally for 10 years. After the Jade Cold Toad, the other precious items were taken out for auction. Lin Feng didn't participate in the bidding. He was waiting for the Blood Spirit Ghost Face Vine. The next item to be auctioned is an interspatial ring refined by a Creation Realm weapon refiner. This interspatial ring is about the size of 10,000 mu of land. Gu Tianma waved his hand and a servant girl came up with a tray. Song Yin Air opened the cloth and saw the silver-white ring on the tray. 10,000 mu? He made such a big spatial ring. Many people were moved. Ordinary spatial rings were a few square meters. The bigger ones were dozens or hundreds of square meters. It was rare to see a spatial ring with 1,000 square meters, but the one in front of them was 10,000 mu. It was too big. Many people were moved. Of course, there were many people who didn't care. After all, there were only a few things to store. It didn't seem to be necessary to make such a big spatial ring. The starting price of this spatial ring is 1 million spiritual stones. Each bid can't be less than 100,000 spiritual stones. Let's start the bidding. Song Yin Air smiled. Many people participated in the bidding. In the end, the spatial ring was bought by Lin Feng for 230 million spiritual stones. Not long after, the Blood Spirit Ghost Face Vine was also taken out for auction. But the price wasn't too high. Lin Feng bought the precious Blood Spirit Ghost Face Vine for 5 million spiritual stones. After buying these two items, Lin Feng planned to leave. He paid the spiritual stones and put away the items. When the auction was in full swing, Lin Feng and Ziyuan left the auction and returned to their residence. Lin Feng had already prepared the rest of the spiritual herbs to make the immemorial blood demon pill. Now that Lin Feng had bought the main ingredient, the Blood Spirit Ghost Face Vine, Lin Feng planned to make the immemorial blood demon pill. Lin Feng took out the medicine cauldron and took a deep breath. This time, the fire Qilin wasn't by his side, so he had to rely on himself. The immemorial blood demon pill was a mid-level low-level mystic class pill. It was Lin Feng's first time making such a high-level pill. He was very nervous about whether he could succeed. Chapter 462. Huff huff. Lin Feng adjusted his breathing. He was a confident person. So what if the fire Qilin was not by his side? It was not his first time refining medicine. The only difference between a yellow tear pill and a dark tear pill was their grade. They were both pills. Lin Feng comforted himself. Moreover, Lin Feng felt that his soul energy had reached the soul level of a dark tier alchemist. Therefore, he had enough reason to believe that he could succeed in refining. Whoosh! Lin Feng flicked his finger, and the purple earthcore fire jumped out. It curled around Lin Feng's fingertips and danced happily. Lin Feng flicked the purple earthcore fire into the cauldron. Stalks of spirit herbs were thrown into the cauldron by Lin Feng and began to be refined and purified. Refining medicine was a very meticulous job. Other than the heavenly fire, strong soul perception, and control of spirit herbs, an alchemist must have another important factor. That was character. Some people, no matter how talented they were careless. They did things carelessly and did not care about the consequences. Such people, even if they had the strongest talent in refining medicine, would find it difficult to become a powerful alchemist. Meticulousness. This was a quality that an alchemist must pay attention to. Other than meticulousness, an alchemist also needed other characteristics such as patience, strong perseverance, and so on. Therefore, this was why it was so difficult to become an alchemist. Those who had talent were already as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Among those who had talent, they also needed to have various outstanding qualities. This would eliminate a portion of them. Therefore, this was one of the main reasons why alchemists were so rare. However, Lin Feng had always been a meticulous person, especially when Lin Feng was focused on something, such as refining medicine or drawing spirit arrays. He would put his heart and soul into it and work hard to achieve the limit of what he could do. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Buzz. In the room, there was a shocking fluctuation. Creak. The door opened and Lin Feng walked out with a tired look on his face. During these 3 days, Ziyuan had been waiting very anxiously, afraid that something would happen while Lin Feng was refining medicine. Now that she saw Lin Feng come out, she was finally relieved. "Sir, you must be tired. You must be hungry. I'll get someone to prepare some food." Looking at the exhausted Lin Feng, Ziyuan said with heartache. Lin Feng smiled and said, "There's no rush. Ziyuan, go in and consume this pill. Then refine it." As he spoke, Lin Feng passed the porcelain bottle containing the ancient blood demon pill to Ziyuan. "This pill was concocted for me?" Ziyuan's expression was full of surprise. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Hurry up and take it. It's just been refined, so its medicinal power is at its best right now. I hope it'll be useful to you. Even if you can't become a cultivation genius after refining this pill, I estimate that it'll greatly increase your cultivation speed." Ziyuan's hand trembled slightly as she held the bottle. She had always wanted to have a powerful cultivation talent, but she had never had such a talent. Ziyuan had always been very anxious, and she even hated herself for being a burden to her master. So her master knew what she was thinking, and he had always kept it in mind. Ziyuan's eyes became moist. Lin Feng rubbed Ziyuan's head and said, "Good luck. I believe that Ziyuan will become a powerful cultivator in the future." "Yes, I will." Ziyuan nodded. Ziyuan nodded solemnly. Then, she took the porcelain bottle with the ancient blood demon pill as if she was carrying a holy object and entered the room inside. Lin Feng muttered, "I hope that Ziyuan's snake demon bloodline can be stronger. If it's too weak, then the ancient blood demon pill won't be of any use. Ziyuan will definitely suffer a heavy blow." Lin Feng suppressed the worry in his heart and sat on the steps outside, leaning against the door frame and resting with his eyes closed. After refining pills for 3 days without rest, Lin Feng was truly exhausted. Ziyuan must become stronger. I don't want to be a burden to master anymore. Ziyuan bit her lip and opened the bottle. She poured out a blood-red pill and swallowed it. Boom! The ancient blood demon pill's medicinal power began to produce a shocking effect. Waves of fiery energy spread out from Ziyuan's body. Pain. Ziyuan felt an unprecedented pain. It was as if her soul was being burned by hellfire. It was a pain that reached deep into her soul. Ziyuan bit her lip even though she was about to die from the pain. However, she still tried her best not to make a sound. Ziyuan was afraid that her master would worry about her. Ziyuan bit her lip so hard that blood flowed into her mouth. She could taste the thick taste of blood spreading in her mouth. Her nails dug into her flesh as her body curled up on the bed, twitching violently. The ancient blood demon pill's medicinal power was too overbearing. Even Lin Feng didn't think of this. Ziyuan felt her consciousness slowly becoming blurry. Am I going to die? I don't want to die. I really don't want to die. I don't want to leave, Master. Ziyuan was unwilling. She wanted to live. However, she felt as if her body was about to be ignited. Waves of fire even spewed out of Ziyuan's body, wanting to burn her to ashes. If it was in the past, this would be a form of relief. But now, Ziyuan really wanted to live. She loved the feeling of being cared for by her master. She loved the feeling of being by his side. However, Ziyuan's consciousness was becoming blurry. In the end, Ziyuan fainted. The immemorial blood demon pill's alchemic fire was terrifying. It wanted to devour Ziyuan and completely and turn her into ashes. But at that moment, Ziyuan's eyes turned dark green. At the same time, Ziyuan's blood began to transform. Her originally dark red blood began to turn golden. Boom! At the same time, in the sky above northern Wasteland City, endless thunderclouds covered the sky. This sudden change alarmed countless people. Countless people rushed out and looked at the sky in shock. They didn't know what was going to happen. Look, what's that? Someone pointed at the sky in horror. Everyone looked over and discovered that within the thunderclouds, an enormous golden snake of unknown length had appeared. A single scale of the golden snake seemed to be larger than the entire northern Wasteland City. An ancient and vicissitude aura surged out of the golden snake's body. Feeling the aura of the golden snake, countless people knelt on the ground and worshipped the golden snake as if they were kneeling to a god. The Holy Emperor's Phantom. Some almighty cultivators looked at the golden snake in disbelief. Why would the Holy Emperor's Phantom appear in the sky above northern Wasteland City? Bloodline Awakening. In a courtyard, a beautiful woman walked out of her room. When she saw the golden snake in the sky, her charming eyes were filled with shock. Swish. Chapter 463. Lin Feng sensed that two people were looking at him in an ice-cold way. He opened his eyes and saw a beautiful woman in the courtyard. That woman was extremely beautiful, no matter if it was her body or her face. But when Lin Feng saw that woman, he only felt ice-cold. It was a bone-piercing coldness. Lin Feng knew that this woman was definitely a terrifying existence. At that moment, Lin Feng saw the huge golden snake in the sky. He was shocked. Was it because Ziyuan had consumed the ancient blood demon pill? This beautiful woman had come here because of the giant golden snake? If Ziyuan had really lured the snake here, then it was too terrifying. It meant that Ziyuan's bloodline was extremely powerful. But the woman in front of him was so cold that Lin Feng felt like he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. She was too terrifying, and she didn't seem to have good intentions. "Senior, may I know who you are?" asked Lin Feng carefully. "Who's inside?" asked the woman instead of answering Lin Feng. "She's my cousin," said Lin Feng. "Cousin?" The woman frowned slightly, but she didn't say anything. She just walked into the room. Lin Feng stopped her and said, "Senior, you can't go in. My cousin has some problems with her cultivation, and she's recovering. Please don't disturb her." The woman looked at Lin Feng coldly and said, "She's already awake, and she's doing well." Lin Feng saw that he couldn't hide anything from the woman, so he smiled awkwardly and entered the room first. As expected, Ziyuan had already woken up, but she still looked a little weak. "Cousin, how are you?" Lin Feng quickly walked over and gave Ziyuan a meaningful glance. Ziyuan was very smart, and she understood what Lin Feng meant. She said, "Thank you, cousin. I'm fine. Who's this beautiful big sister?" The woman who had been looking at Lin Feng coldly smiled at Ziyuan and said, "Young lady, my name is Lan Rua. I'm not your big sister anymore. You can call me Aunt Lan Rua. Can I examine your body carefully?" Ziyuan looked at Lin Feng. Lan Rua also looked at Lin Feng, but there was a threatening look in her eyes. Lin Feng smiled bitterly and said, "My cousin's body has just recovered. It's our honor to be examined by Senior." The woman nodded in satisfaction. She initially looked at Zi Yuan coldly, but now she was smiling. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. That woman changed her mind faster than flipping a book. The woman smiled and said, "Don't worry. She'll recover." Zi Yuan nodded. The woman placed her right hand on Zi Yuan's abdomen, and it immediately shone with golden light. What's wrong with me?" Zi Yuan cried out in alarm. The woman was pleasantly surprised. She really did awaken the most ancient, sacred ancestor blood race. What a pleasant surprise. I never thought I'd encounter such a fortuitous encounter in northern desolate city. Judging from the woman's tone, Zi Yuan had awakened a very powerful bloodline. Lin Feng was about to ask her about it when the woman said, "Come with me quickly." When this girl awakened her bloodline, she alarmed many people. "We have to leave quickly. Otherwise, it'll be very troublesome if other people find this place." Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. If even the woman found this troublesome, it naturally wasn't something he and Zi Yuan could deal with. Lin Feng had seen a huge golden snake in the sky. That was the result of Zi Yuan's bloodline awakening, and it was indeed too shocking. It had attracted many experts, but Lin Feng didn't suspect anything. Even though Lin Feng didn't want to have too much contact with the woman, it seemed that he could only leave with her and then think of a way to escape. The three of them quickly left. Not long after, several figures flew towards the inn where Lin Feng was staying, but Lin Feng and the others had already left. Lin Feng and Zi Yuan followed the woman to a mansion in the northwest part of northern desolate city. "Someone's following us." The woman frowned and glanced into the distance. Lin Feng looked over and saw a middle-aged cultivator looking at him with a ferocious smile. He could also sense some gloomy qi coming from all directions. There were cultivators hiding in the dark, and it was obvious that they were targeting him. The woman could obviously tell that the qi was targeting Lin Feng, so she looked at Lin Feng meaningfully before entering the courtyard. "Cousin, brother, who are those people?" asked Zi Yuan worriedly. "I'm afraid they're from the Fog City," whispered Lin Feng. "They're chasing us." Zi Yuan's face paled slightly. Lin Feng nodded gravely and said, "Let's go in and see what they're up to." Zi Yuan nodded and entered the courtyard with Lin Feng. "Master, you're back. Who are these two people?" asked a group of more than 10 people. "There's no time to talk. Let's leave northern desolate city," said the woman. As the beautiful woman spoke, she took out a palm-sized boat. This ship was different from ordinary ships. Ordinary ships would enter the water. For example, Taoist priest Xian Cheng's ship could pass through the magnetic fog lake. The ship that the woman had taken out was obviously much larger. It was a flying ship. She poured her magic power into the ship, and it quickly flew into the air. It grew to 20 meters long and 8 or 9 meters tall, and it emitted powerful energy waves. Lin Feng clicked his tongue in amazement when he saw the ship. It was really a treasure. Only the best equipment forgers could make such a ship. "Let's get on the ship. We'll talk on the way." The woman looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded. The people of the Fog City were watching them, and Zi Yuan's bloodline had awakened. They had to leave northern desolate city as soon as possible. Leaving with the woman's ship wasn't a bad choice. The group boarded the ship. Whoosh! The ship soared into the sky and flew away. Chase! The men of sacrifice from the Hellion clan, who had been hiding in the surroundings, chased after them. "The men of sacrifice from the Hellion clan are here as well." "Interesting," said Nalen Hong indifferently. He quickly disappeared from the street. The ship was very luxurious. The woman called Lin Feng and Zi Yuan to her room. She smiled at Zi Yuan and said, "Little girl, what's your name?" "My name is Zi Yuan. This is my cousin, Lin Feng." Zi Yuan was very smart, and she smiled. "Where is your family?" asked Zi Yuan. Said Lin Feng, "Something happened in my family. Now, only my cousin and I are left. We depend on each other." When she heard that Lin Feng and Zi Yuan had no family, the woman was delighted. She looked at Zi Yuan happily, but when she looked at Lin Feng, her eyes were filled with killing intent. However, she hid it too well, and Lin Feng didn't notice it. Chapter 464. Zi Yuan had awakened the sacred ancestor's bloodline, which was unimaginably powerful. In the future, she would definitely become a peerless expert. Therefore, The beautiful woman had the intention of taking Ziyuanyuan into her sect. The world is difficult. You two depend on each other for survival. What do you plan to do? Lin Feng replied, I plan to seek protection from a large sect. Our Heavenly Dao Ancient Holy Land is the #1 power in the Heavenly Dao Prefecture. We have a long history, and we have the most ancient inheritance. Why don't the two of you join us? Lin Feng hadn't expected such a good thing. An ancient holy land had actually sent him an invitation. A power like the Heavenly Dao Ancient Holy Land was definitely one of the strongest powers in the 3,000 provinces. Lin Feng had deliberately concealed his aura, so he looked very ordinary. Thus, Lin Feng knew that the woman had only invited him and Ziyuan to join the Heavenly Dao Ancient Holy Land because of Ziyuan's talent. With Ziyuan's talent, you'll definitely be able to become a core disciple very quickly after joining us. At that time, we'll also be able to find you an outer disciple. What do you think? The woman looked at Lin Feng. She could tell that Lin Feng was around 19 years old, but he was still only a general. In addition, Lin Feng had deliberately concealed his bloodline power. Thus, she felt that Lin Feng's talent was only average. Lin Feng said, Thank you. I'll leave everything to you, senior. All right, very good. The Heavenly Dao Ancient Holy Land won't mistreat you. The woman said, Ziyu, Lin Feng will sleep in the same room as you. Ziyuan, why don't you sleep in the same room as me? The woman smiled at Ziyuan. Ziyuan didn't want to be separated from Lin Feng, but when she thought about how they were cousins, she felt that it was best to avoid arousing suspicion. She nodded and said, I'm afraid that I'll disturb Senior's dreams. The woman smiled. How could that be? I'm more than happy to have you by my side. In the future, you'll also become a disciple of the Heavenly Dao Ancient Holy Land. You can call me Martial Ant like everyone else. Ziyuan nodded obediently. The young cultivator called Ziyu took Lin Feng to her room and smiled. Brother Lin, you can sleep on this bed, said Ziyu, smiling. This person's full name was Wang Ziyu. He was 20 years old and was a 5th firmament martial king. He was only 1 year older than Lin Feng. He was quite talented and was an inner disciple of the Heavenly Dao Ancient Holy Land. Asked Lin Feng, How long will it take to get to the Celestial Dao Ancient Holy Land? Asked Lin Feng. We need to cross 3 provinces. Even if we take a flying ship, we won't be able to get there in 10 years. We need to go to Rain City now. It's one of the 10 great ancient capitals of desolate territory. It rains heavily all year round. That's why it's called Rain City. There's a space-time wormhole in Rain City. It'll take us 3 months to get to the Celestial Dao Ancient Holy Land. Wang Ziyu said, Space-time wormhole? What is that? Asked Lin Feng. It's a space-time wormhole. It's a kind of tunnel, but it's not an ordinary tunnel. It's a wormhole. It's a tunnel that can cross an endless distance. It's said that the gods created it. When you enter a wormhole, you can jump through the void and greatly reduce the time it takes to travel between 2 places. But nowadays, there aren't many wormholes. Usually, there's only 1 wormhole in a region. Sometimes there are 2, 3, and some regions don't even have a wormhole. Lin Feng nodded. I see. Lin Feng nodded. It was just like how the Eastern Province didn't have any space-time wormholes. Ziyuan, why aren't you asleep? Asked the beautiful woman when she saw Ziyuan tossing and turning. I don't know if my cousin is asleep or not. Uncle, I'm going to go see him. I'll be back soon. Ziyuan stood up and walked out of her room. She walked towards Lin Feng and Wang Ziyu's room. In the darkness, the beautiful woman's eyes flashed coldly. He has the divine ancestor's bloodline. How can such a genius have any connections in this world? The beautiful woman got up and walked to the window. When she saw the figure that was far behind the spaceship, a cold smile appeared on her face. The next day, the beautiful woman called Wang Ziyu and said, Keep an eye on Lin Feng. Wang Ziyu's heart shuddered. A few years ago, something similar happened. Her beautiful martial aunt had found a very talented girl. That girl had a fiancé who was her childhood sweetheart. The condition for joining the Heavenly Dao Ancient Holy Land was to join the Heavenly Dao Ancient Holy Land with her childhood sweetheart and fiancé. The woman had agreed. But on the way there, the young man had suddenly died. At that moment, Wang Ziyu had already guessed who the culprit was. At that moment, Her teacher was telling her to keep an eye on Lin Feng. Besides, her eyes were filled with killing intent, which made Wang Ziyu think of many things. But Wang Ziyu was only an insignificant elite disciple. She didn't dare disobey her teacher's orders. Disciple will remember. All right, you can go. The woman waved her hand. Over the next 3 days, Lin Feng noticed that Wang Ziyu was acting strangely. Originally, he and Wang Ziyu had been chatting happily, but during these 3 days, Wang Ziyu had barely spoken to him. It seemed like she had something to say to him, but she was hesitant. On the third night, Wang Ziyu said to Lin Feng, "Brother Lin, hurry up and leave the ship. Don't waste any more time. If you waste any more time, you might die." "What do you mean?" Lin Feng was puzzled. "Don't ask so many questions. Come with me." Wang Ziyu brought Lin Feng to the outside of the ship. He said, "Hit me, then I'll open the ship's restrictive spells and let you leave. If you're too late, I'm afraid, traitor." A cold voice rang out. The beautiful woman silently appeared and slapped Wang Ziyu with her palm, sending her flying. Wah! Wang Ziyu coughed up blood and crashed into the restrictive spells. She fell to the ground, twitched violently, and stopped moving. Nobody knew whether she was dead or alive. How could you be so cruel? When Lin Feng saw Wang Ziyu's fate, he pulled a long face. At that moment, he had already guessed what had happened. The beautiful woman had probably wanted to kill him. Wang Ziyu had heard the news and wanted to let him go. At that moment, she had been killed. When Lin Feng saw that Wang Ziyu had wanted to let him go, his heart was filled with killing intent. "You betrayed me, and you're courting death. Those people behind you are chasing you, right? You're really persistent. Piss off." The beautiful woman smiled coldly and waved her sleeves. A powerful force wrapped around Lin Feng and threw him out of the ship. The ship turned into a beam of light and flew off into the distance, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Chapter 465. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A dozen people in black clothes were rushing towards Lin Feng while releasing an ice-cold chi. Lin Feng was surrounded. "Ruolan, you bitch." Lin Feng gnashed his teeth. He hated Ruolan to the core. He knew that some people had been chasing him in Ziyuan. How could Ruolan not know? She had driven him off the airship because she wanted to kill him with a borrowed knife. "Little boy, why are you being driven off?" asked the leader of the group. He was a cultivator of the 10th celestial layer. His cultivation level was terrifying. He alone could pose a threat to Lin Feng. Besides, he had many helpers. Lin Feng knew that he was in danger. If he wasn't careful, he could die. "Who are you? Are you from the Nalan clan? Or are you from the Hellion clan?" Lin Feng looked at those people in black coldly. "Since you're going to die, we'll let you know why. We're from the Hellion clan. We've received orders to kill you. Even if we have to chase you to the ends of the earth, we'll take your life." The leader of the black-clothed men said coldly, "So you're from the Hellion clan. No wonder you're chasing me. But we don't know who will win," said Lin Feng with a cold smile. He immediately attacked. The situation wasn't good. Lin Feng needed to break out of the encirclement. The enemy had a cultivator of the 10th celestial layer. Besides, apart from that cultivator, there were 2 cultivators of the 7th celestial layer, 5 cultivators of the 5th celestial layer, and 7 cultivators of the 4th celestial layer. There were too many high-level cultivators. If Lin Feng fought against them, he would be courting death. Boom! Dense thunderbolts intertwined and moved towards the cultivators of the 4th celestial layer. They were the weakest, so it was the easiest place to break out of the encirclement. As for the other places, the cultivators of the Hellion clan were too strong. Breaking out of the encirclement was as difficult as climbing to the heavens. "Brat, you're courting death." Seeing that Lin Feng actually still dared to make the first move, these death warriors were immediately enraged. The leader of the death warriors shouted, "Although this little boy's cultivation level isn't high, he probably has some powerful magical treasures. Don't underestimate him." The main reason was that Nalan Kong, Hellion Zhe, and the others who had chased after Lin Feng had all died. At that time, there were 6 Martial King experts following them, although the cultivation of those 6 Martial Kings was not particularly high. But what about Lin Feng? He was only a Martial General cultivator. The leader of the men of sacrifice would not believe that a martial general realm cultivator could kill 6 martial king realm cultivators with his own strength. He was more willing to believe that it was because Lin Feng had a powerful magic treasure on him that he was able to kill the 6 experts. Now, the leader of the Death Warriors was even thinking that after killing Lin Feng, he would take all of Lin Feng's powerful magic weapons for himself. Anyway, the Patriarch didn't know that Lin Feng had such a magic weapon. Yes, Your Excellency. Those people of sacrifice were extremely careful. They all moved towards Lin Feng at the same time. There were people all around him, but Lin Feng did not dodge. Seeing this scene, the men of sacrifice had a sinister expression on their faces. Is this brat courting death? He's not dodging? In their opinion, Lin Feng was simply courting death. How could he survive after receiving so many attacks? Brat, die. A few powerful death warriors had hideous smiles on their faces. They had already charged towards Lin Feng. Roar! At that critical moment, the two-headed Xiong Qi rushed out and protected Lin Feng's body. It waved its huge claws and attacked the death warriors. Lin Feng was relying on the two-headed Xiong Qi's strength. He wanted to use the two-headed Xiong Qi to catch them off guard and block the attacks from the 2 death warriors to buy himself some time. It's an avatar. The death warriors were shocked. However, their attacks were powerful enough to send the two-headed Xiong Qi flying. However, the two-headed Xiong Qi had already won Lin Feng precious time. Lin Feng used the Sky Tyrant Lightning incantation to form a lightning attack and collided with the 4th Firmament Martial King experts. They had the advantage in numbers. However, their cultivation was limited. Bang! Along with the sound of the violent collision, there was a loud bang. Several cultivators in the 4th heaven of the Martial King realm were sent flying. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He quickly rushed out of the encirclement. However, at that moment, a cold aura swept over from behind. Lin Feng was shocked. He wanted to dodge, but it was too late. He saw a crescent-shaped magic treasure appear in the void. It spun violently and slashed at Lin Feng's back. Puff! The power of the magic treasure was too strong. Lin Feng's body could not withstand the terrifying sharpness. A deep wound was torn open and blood immediately gushed out. If Lin Feng's body was not strong enough, this attack would have cut Lin Feng into 2. Swoosh! Lin Feng's body fell into the forest below. Haha, Sir's full moon swordsmanship is really powerful. That kid is not simple, but he still can't withstand the power of Sir's swordsmanship. Seeing Lin Feng fall, the death warriors complimented him. They did not believe that Lin Feng could survive. My treasured saber is made of frost black iron. It belongs to the extreme Yin attribute. When combined with my full moon swordsmanship, its power is naturally endless. Alright, go and collect that kid's body. The leader of the death warriors said, Yes, sir. 2 men of sacrifice immediately plunged into the forest below. Puff! Lin Feng, who was falling rapidly in midair, spat out a mouthful of blood. He felt that there was a terrifying saber chi in his body that was destroying his vitality. Although the injury on his back was serious, it was not fatal. The most terrifying and fatal injury was the saber chi that entered his body. The 2 death warriors who went to collect Lin Feng's body were very fast. They reached out to grab the falling Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng, who was supposed to be dead, suddenly moved. Fast as lightning. Ah! A shrill scream was heard. Lin Feng took advantage of the fact that the 2 death warriors were not prepared to use the Sword of Souls. Then, he used his palm as a saber and instantly chopped off the heads of the 2 death warriors. Then, Lin Feng quickly rushed into the depths of the forest. He knew that he had to find a place to suppress his injuries quickly. Otherwise, only death awaited them. Oh no, something happened. When the leader of the men of sacrifice heard the screams coming from below, his face suddenly changed. He shouted and rushed down. The rest of the death warriors also rushed into the forest. However, there was no sign of Lin Feng in the forest. There were only 2 decapitated death warriors. This kid is seriously injured. His life is in danger. He can't run away. Go after him. The leader of the death warriors shouted with a gloomy face. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. More than 10 death warriors scattered in all directions, quickly searching for Lin Feng's whereabouts. Chapter 466. Pooh! The saber chi in his body wreaked havoc. Lin Feng couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His face became even paler. What a powerful saber technique. It actually injured me to this extent. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. He had never suffered such a serious injury before. The blow that he had just received was in a situation where he was completely defenseless. It was precisely because of this that the damage was even more terrifying. Lin Feng felt that the saber chi in his body was going to destroy all of his vitality. It was so violent that it was wreaking havoc in his body. However, he didn't have the time to suppress it at all. Lin Feng knew that in his current state, even a martial master cultivator might be able to kill him. Tired, Lin Feng felt an unprecedented fatigue. Whoosh! Finally, Lin Feng couldn't hold on any longer. His body quickly fell into the forest below. Even the pair of energy wings formed by the golden body's wings had dissipated. Lin Feng slowly closed his eyes. He really wanted to close his eyes completely and never wake up, because he was really too tired. Plop! But soon, a bone-piercing chill swept through his body. Lin Feng's already dispirited aura recovered a lot. Lin Feng fell into a torrential river and was swept far away. Lin Feng's spirit recovered a lot after being stimulated by the cold river water. Although he was still very weak, he could at least use some strength. He hugged a piece of wood and floated downstream. The saber chi in his body was still wreaking havoc on Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng spat out mouthfuls of blood from time to time. Suddenly, Lin Feng saw a protruding platform at the bottom of the cliff. Even though it wasn't very big, it was very secluded and could hide people. Lin Feng used all his strength to swim towards the protruding platform. Finally, Lin Feng climbed up the rock. Pooh! The saber chi in his body pierced through Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood. His face was extremely pale. He tried his best to sit up and leaned against the rock wall. He didn't dare to delay and hurriedly circulated the archaic dragonesque elephant art. When he circulated the archaic dragonesque elephant art, it pulled at the wounds on his body. His back was burning with pain, and the blood didn't stop flowing. Lin Feng spat out another mouthful of blood. He felt drowsy and couldn't keep his eyes open. Pooh! Lin Feng was very straightforward. He took out a dagger and stabbed it into his thigh. Blood immediately spurted out. After receiving such a huge blow, his spirit, a lot. Lin Feng knew that he definitely couldn't close his eyes. As long as he closed his eyes, then what awaited him would be death. So he didn't hesitate to provoke himself. Lin Feng started using the ancient Dracophant formula. The strength of the ancient Dracophant formula started healing Lin Feng's injuries. But at that moment, a dazzling blade light continued to penetrate into Lin Feng's body. It wanted to tear his body apart. It was a fatal blow. Demonic blood saber. Demonic blood saber. A series of low and deep sounds came from the blade light. Saber spirit. Lin Feng was shocked. The so-called spirit was a kind of existence with a simple consciousness, spiritual consciousness, like the weapon spirit of a magic treasure. The saber chi in Lin Feng's body had a spirit. It wasn't a magic treasure, it was just the saber chi of a saber technique. But it gave birth to its spirit. This was extremely terrifying. Normally, only experts in the yin-yang realm could give their attacks spirit. Of course, some martial king experts who were about to enter the yin-yang realm might be able to understand the method of giving their attacks spirit in advance by chance. The leader of the men of sacrifice wasn't in the yin-yang realm. He was in the martial king 10th heaven peak, but he comprehended the saber spirit. This meant that he was about to break through the yin-yang realm. What was so terrifying about the spirit? First, if one could give their attacks as spirit, then their attacks would be several times stronger. For example, if 2 cultivators in the yin-yang realm at the first heaven had comprehended the spirit and the other didn't, then, when the 2 of them fought, the cultivator who comprehended the spirit could even kill the cultivator who didn't. Although they had the same cultivation, there was such a big gap. This was the terror of the spirit. Secondly, the spirit was a kind of consciousness given by the user. The spirit would only obey the user's consciousness and act according to the user's consciousness. For example, The saber chi that entered Lin Feng's body contained a saber spirit. The consciousness of the saber spirit was to destroy Lin Feng's body and kill Lin Feng. If it was an ordinary saber chi that pierced through Lin Feng's body, it would have disappeared. However, the leader of the Men of Sacrifice's attack contained a spirit. Therefore, not only did his attack not disappear, but it also entered Lin Feng's body and began to destroy Lin Feng's body. This was the terror of the spirit. Finally, some terrifying spirits were said to be able to take over someone's body and be reborn. Of course, the leader of the Men of Sacrifice couldn't do that. Even so, the leader of the Men of Sacrifice's saber had almost killed Lin Feng. If Lin Feng hadn't fallen into the icy river and recovered his mental strength, he might have died under the attack of the saber chi. Lin Feng used the archaic dragonesque elephant skill and summoned the shadow of the archaic dragonesque elephant to suppress the saber chi in his body. The baleful blood saber is invincible. The baleful blood saber is invincible. The saber spirit's cold voice continued to wreak havoc in Lin Feng's body. It wanted to destroy Lin Feng's body further. However, the shadow of the archaic dragonesque elephant was too powerful. It stomped down and crushed the saber spirit. Such a powerful saber spirit should be mine. Lin Feng took a deep breath. He activated his devouring martial spirit. Bzzz. The devouring martial spirit immediately enveloped the saber chi that contained the saber spirit. Lin Feng wanted to forcibly refine the saber chi that contained the saber spirit. Lin Feng knew how terrifying that attack was. It was the leader of the Men of Sacrifice's full strength. The leader of the Men of Sacrifice hadn't broken through to the yin-yang layer yet. It was already impressive that he could use such a powerful attack in battle. If Lin Feng could refine the saber spirit, he would have a terrifying attack. The baleful blood saber. The baleful blood saber. The saber spirit was struggling and roaring furiously. However, its struggling and roaring gradually weakened under the suppression of Lin Feng's devouring martial spirit. The saber spirit's chi was gradually mixed with Lin Feng's chi. So you're hiding here. In the distance, a silhouette flew over. It was a man of sacrifice wearing black clothes who had the strength of the fourth celestial layer. When he sensed the chaotic chi in Lin Feng's body, he was overjoyed. He knew that Lin Feng was about to die. The man of sacrifice didn't inform the others. Instead, he rushed towards Lin Feng because he knew that Lin Feng might have a precious treasure on him. The man of sacrifice wanted to kill Lin Feng quietly and take the treasure for himself. Chapter 467. The smile on the fourth-level Martial King Realm Man of Sacrifice's face grew colder and colder, and his killing intent grew stronger. In his opinion, Lin Feng, who was seriously injured, would not be able to escape death. He seemed to see himself killing Lin Feng and obtaining Lin Feng's magic treasure. Then, he would take Lin Feng's magic treasure as his own, and his cultivation would increase greatly. But at this moment, Lin Feng suddenly opened his eyes. The man of sacrifice grinned. So what if you've woken up? It's too late to hide now. Boom. But in the next moment, a terrifying aura enveloped his entire body. The fourth-level Martial King Realm Expert's face suddenly revealed a look of horror because he found that his body was imprisoned in midair, unable to move. At this critical moment, Lin Feng summoned his devouring martial spirit. 5 devouring martial spirits as one. The powerful magnetic field formed immediately imprisoned the cultivator. Die. Lin Feng looked indifferent. He used his palm as a saber and slashed out directly. Puff. The fourth-level Martial King Realm Expert's neck was suddenly torn apart, and blood spurted out. Then, his body fell into the water and was swept away by the waves. Puff. Lin Feng spat out a mouthful of blood. He had just suppressed the saber chi in his body, and his injuries had not recovered. At this moment, he used his 5 devouring martial spirits to fight against the enemy, and injured himself again. I can't stay here for long. These men of sacrifice will come after me. Lin Feng swallowed a few healing pills, and his chi and blood recovered a little. This was not a place to stay for long. Even if he wanted to heal, he had to find a hidden place. Lin Feng looked into the depths of the dense forest. He vaguely felt a few terrifying auras entrenched in the depths. There should be very powerful, fierce beasts entrenched in the depths. Perhaps he could hide there and heal his injuries as soon as possible. Whoosh! Lin Feng flew into the depths of the forest. Not long after, he was attacked. Buzz! A flying sword as fast as lightning shot towards Lin Feng. This was a death warrior in black. He was hiding on top of a big tree and launched a sneak attack on Lin Feng. The flying sword emitted a cold light, emitting an aura that caused Lin Feng's heart to palpitate. However, Lin Feng's reaction speed was extremely fast. He quickly dodged the flying sword's attack and then rushed towards the other party. Whoosh! Lin Feng instantly rushed in front of the Martial King Realm Man of Sacrifice. He was also a man of sacrifice at the fourth heaven of the Martial King Realm. The kamikaze warrior originally thought that he could kill Lin Feng with one strike, but he didn't expect Lin Feng to dodge the attack. Moreover, Lin Feng instantly arrived in front of him. His expression changed dramatically. He wanted to retreat quickly, but it was too late. Lin Feng had already launched a punch with the Sky Tyrant Thunder Art. Boom! A terrifying aura burst out, and dense lightning energy enveloped the Death Warrior. Bolts of lightning struck the Death Warrior's body mercilessly. Poof! The Death Warrior's body was instantly torn to pieces. Blood dripped, and he died on the spot. Lin Feng took away the Death Warrior's flying sword and storage ring. Then, he released a flame and burned the Death Warrior's body to ashes. Then, he quickly left. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Not long after, 4 figures rushed over. They were 4 Death Warriors. 2 of them were 5th Heaven Martial King Realm Cultivators, while the other 2 were 4th Heaven Martial King Realm Cultivators. Look, there's ashes. Our people must have been killed. One of the Death Warriors said with a gloomy expression. They must have gone deeper. Chase them. As soon as the voice fell, the 4 Death Warriors quickly chased into the depths of the forest. Cough, cough, cough. Lin Feng kept coughing, and his face was very pale. His injuries hadn't healed, and the continuous battles had worsened them. It was difficult for him to increase his speed, but Lin Feng's perception was still very strong. Not long after, he felt 4 cold auras chasing after him. Lin Feng took a deep breath, and his body silently disappeared. Soon, the 4 Death Warriors rushed over. They lost all their auras. They must be hiding in the surroundings. A 5th Heaven Martial King Realm Death Warrior said in a deep voice, "Split up and search." Another cultivator at the 5th Heaven of the Martial King Realm said coldly. The 4 Death Warriors spread out and began to search. Not long after, a shrill scream was heard, alarming the other 3. The 3 Death Warriors quickly rushed over and found that one of their companions' chest had been pierced by a sword. That kid knows how to hide. Use the wind and force him out. A 5th Heaven Martial King Realm Death Warrior said with a gloomy expression. Boom! Then, the 3 of them used the wind. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The fierce wind swept over and destroyed a large area of the forest. Lin Feng was forced out. Kid, you're dead. When the 3 Death Warriors saw Lin Feng, their faces were full of murderous intent. They quickly rushed towards Lin Feng. Roar, roar. A deep roar was heard, and the 2-headed Xiong Qi appeared. Under Lin Feng's control, the 2-headed Xiong Qi rushed towards the 2 5th Heaven Martial King Realm Cultivators. Lin Feng rushed towards the 4th Heaven Martial King Realm Cultivator. If he got rid of the 4th Heaven Martial King Realm Cultivator first, Lin Feng would feel less pressure. I'll deal with the clone. You go deal with the kid. One of the Death Warriors said the other cultivator nodding and throwing himself at Lin Feng. The 2-headed winged tiger threw itself at him, but it was stopped by a cultivator of the 5th celestial layer. Tyrannical Thunder Incantation. Without holding back, Lin Feng used his most powerful attack. A ball of lightning instantly appeared in Lin Feng's hand. Lin Feng attacked the 4th Heaven Martial King Realm Cultivator. Kid, you're courting death. The 4th Heaven Martial King Realm Cultivator sneered and threw out 12 punches in a row. Fist shadows were everywhere, rushing towards Lin Feng. At the same time, the Martial King Realm Cultivator had already rushed behind Lin Feng. With a sneer on his face, he attacked Lin Feng with his palm. Even if Lin Feng could really kill the 4th Heaven Martial King Realm Cultivator, he would still be killed by the 5th Heaven Martial King Realm Cultivator's attack. Avoiding the attack was the best choice. The two Death Warriors originally thought that Lin Feng would avoid the attack. They were waiting for this moment. As long as Lin Feng retreated, the two of them could attack Lin Feng together. But what surprised them was that Lin Feng didn't retreat at all. It was as if he hadn't sensed the cultivator of the 5th celestial layer. He was still moving towards the cultivator of the 4th celestial layer. Bang! The two sides collided fiercely. The power of thunder exploded, directly blowing the 4th Heaven Martial King Realm Death Warrior's arm into a bloody mist. The 4th Heaven Martial King Realm Death Warrior let out an incomparably shrill cry. In the next moment, Lin Feng's palm hit his head, and his entire head was smashed into his body. Kid, you deserve to die. The 5th Heaven Martial King Realm Death Warrior had already rushed over. Seeing that Lin Feng had killed one of his companions, he roared angrily and slammed his palm on Lin Feng's back, sending Lin Feng flying more than 10 meters away. With a loud bang, Lin Feng's body slammed into a big tree. The tree, which could only be hugged by a dozen people, was instantly broken by the terrifying impact. Chapter 468. Whoosh! After sending Lin Feng flying with a palm strike, the 5th layer Martial King Warrior rushed towards Lin Feng, who had fallen to the ground. The clone is still alive, which means that the kid is still alive. Be careful, don't kill him. Leave him alive. We still need to find out the cultivation method of the clone from him. The warrior who was fighting the two-headed Xiongqi shouted. Don't worry, we won't kill this kid. The treasure on this kid's body is not fated with us, but if we can get this kid's clone technique, we will definitely have a chance to cultivate it. The warrior who rushed towards Lin Feng replied. Soon, the warrior came to Lin Feng's side and attacked Lin Feng, who had fallen to the ground. Just in time, Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. When the cultivator came close to him, he quickly used the entanglement technique. Dense threads entangled the man of sacrifice in the 5th heaven of the Martial King realm. Ah, the spiritual array technique. This kid is a spiritual array master. The Death Warrior cried out in horror. Poof! In the next moment, the head of the warrior was chopped off by Lin Feng. Huff, huff, huff. Lin Feng panted heavily. He now felt that it was very difficult to breathe. His whole body was in extreme pain, and he didn't know if his bones were broken. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. He had to kill the other person. He couldn't delay any longer. If the 10th layer Martial King Warrior leader was attracted, he would definitely die. Whoosh! Lin Feng quickly moved towards another cultivator of the 5th sky of the Huangqi layer. The warrior originally thought that Lin Feng would be captured by his accomplice, but he didn't expect that Lin Feng would kill his accomplice. At this moment, he already had the intention to retreat. Because he was only a cultivator of the 5th celestial layer, and Lin Feng not only had a powerful clone, but was also a spiritual deployment caster. At this moment, it was extremely unwise to stay. However, Lin Feng had no intention of letting this person go. He quickly rushed forward and punched out. Roar! The two-headed Xiongqi also let out a deep roar and cooperated with Lin Feng. The two-headed Xiongqi was the main attacker and Lin Feng was the support. Pooh! After a dozen or so rounds of fighting, Lin Feng cut off the head of the Death Warrior. Pooh! Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to leave, the sound of something tearing through the air came from afar. Very soon, a Death Warrior flew over. Brat, you killed so many of our people. Seeing the 4 dead cultivators, the Death Warrior's expression became extremely gloomy. 7th layer Martial King. Lin Feng took a deep breath. This Death Warrior was too terrifying. He definitely had the strength to kill Lin Feng. Even if Lin Feng wasn't injured before, facing this person would still be a dead man. What's more, he was now seriously injured and was in a very bad situation. You want to kill me, but I'm not allowed to kill you? What a ridiculous statement, said Lin Feng coldly to the cultivator of the 7th celestial layer. He was holding a high-grade spirit stone in both hands. Lin Feng was quickly absorbing the spirit qi in the spirit stone to quickly recover his body. His heavily injured body was about to reach its limit after repeated battles. He had to recover quickly, or he wouldn't even have the strength to fight. Oomph! The 7th layer Martial King Cultivator naturally saw the spirit stone in Lin Feng's hand and couldn't help but snort coldly. He didn't say anything else and directly rushed towards Lin Feng. This person obviously knew Lin Feng's plan. He could also feel the terrible condition of Lin Feng's body, so he didn't want to give Lin Feng any time to recover. Roar! The two-headed Xiong Qi roared and rushed towards the 7th layer Martial King Death Warrior. I'll destroy this clone. The Death Warrior's expression was indifferent. In his opinion, it was not difficult to destroy an external avatar. Boom, boom, boom. The man of sacrifice continuously attacked the two-headed Xiong Qi more than a dozen times. Each time, the two-headed Xiong Qi was sent flying, but in the next moment, the two-headed Xiong Qi would attack again. The man of sacrifice's attacks were stronger each time, but he couldn't destroy the two-headed Xiong Qi. The man of sacrifice's face became very ugly. It wasn't that he hadn't seen a clone before. However, he had never seen such a powerful clone. The man of sacrifice's face sank. He felt that things were not going well. They had already been delayed for a while. If they delayed any longer, the boy would be in big trouble once he recovered. Even though the cultivator of the 7th celestial layer didn't think Lin Feng could pose a threat to him. Even so, he didn't want to give Lin Feng too much time. In the man of sacrifice's opinion, if he could get rid of his opponent quickly and easily, there was no need to use complicated methods. Get out of my way. The two-headed Xiong Qi once again attacked the man of sacrifice. This time, the man of sacrifice didn't want to destroy the two-headed Xiong Qi. He just wanted to make the two-headed Xiong Qi retreat so that it wouldn't disturb him from killing Lin Feng. Bang! The man of sacrifice attacked again. He fiercely attacked the two-headed Xiong Qi and directly sent it flying. Then, the man of sacrifice instantly rushed towards Lin Feng. Boy, it's time to end this. The face of this man of sacrifice in the 7th heaven of the Martial King realm was full of cold and dense killing intent. He raised his right hand, gathered a powerful attack, and attacked Lin Feng. Lin Feng threw away the two spiritual stones in his hand. While the two-headed Xiong Qi was holding off the man of sacrifice, Lin Feng had already absorbed the pure energy contained in the 6 spiritual stones. After absorbing the energy contained in the 6 spiritual stones, Lin Feng felt that his genuine qi had recovered a lot. This man of sacrifice of the 7th heaven Martial King realm was indeed very powerful. If it was before, Lin Feng would have had a hard time defeating him. But now, Lin Feng had mastered the saber qi that contained the saber spirit. This was the strongest attack that Lin Feng had mastered so far. Boom! When the man of sacrifice attacked Lin Feng also moved and activated the saber qi. He gently waved his right hand in the void. A dazzling saber light rushed out. Lin Feng poured all his genuine qi into the saber light. Buzz! The saber light instantly became 10 meters long. Demonic blood saber. Demonic blood saber. The saber spirit let out an eerie and terrifying cry. Saber spirit. How is this possible? Shouted the cultivator of the 7th celestial king layer. He couldn't believe it. He wanted to retreat, but he realized that he couldn't dodge Lin Feng's attacks. At this moment, the saber light that was more than 10 meters long had already struck down. No. The expert in the 7th heaven of the Martial King realm let out a terrified cry. Puff. The next moment, his body was torn apart. The terrifying saber light then destroyed a large area of the forest and tore a huge abyss in the ground. Several mountains in the distance were instantly split by the saber light. One saber split mountains and rivers. The saber light that had awakened the saber spirit was really powerful. Chapter 469. Roar. A deep roar came from afar. On top of a mountain, a 300-meter-long, 200-meter-tall flaming lion roared into the sky. The entire forest quieted down. It was a beast king in this area. It was abnormally powerful and emitted a terrifying aura that made one's soul tremble. Now that the beast king had appeared, it was time to hunt. All the beasts carefully hid, not daring to appear at this time. Whoosh! A figure swept over from afar. It was the injured Lin Feng. He rushed into the depths of the forest. Lin Feng tried his best to conceal his aura, trying not to be discovered by the Beast King. Lin Feng knew that he couldn't stay in the outer area any longer. Sooner or later, he would be discovered by the cultivator of the Hellion clan at the top of the Huangqi layer. If he was discovered in his current state, he would die without a doubt. Of course, Lin Feng was also worried. He thought of the middle-aged cultivator he had caught a glimpse of the other day. He was filled with killing intent. That was a Yin-Yang realm powerhouse. Was it a powerhouse from the Hellion family? Or was it a powerhouse from the Nalan family? Or perhaps he was mistaken. That killing intent was not directed at him at all? Was it directed at that B*TCH Rulin? That person did not appear again. However, Lin Feng had always been cautious and was still on guard against that existence. That fellow's threat was much greater than the Hellion family's men of sacrifice. That was a Yin-Yang realm powerhouse. Lin Feng knew very well how terrifying and powerful a Yin-Yang realm powerhouse was. Roar, roar, the earth-shattering roar resounded through the forest. The Beast King's aura filled the air. Even Lin Feng did not dare to move around carelessly. He hid himself deep in the darkness. He was worried that he would be discovered by the flaming lion if he moved around. Finally, the flaming lion soared into the sky and flew into the distance. It was probably looking for food. Lin Feng opened up a cave in a valley not far from the flaming lion's lair. Then, he set up a few concealment and illusory formations. He blocked the entrance with a large rock before entering the cave. As the saying goes, the most dangerous place is the safest place. Those death warriors of the Hellion clan probably didn't think that he would hide next to the Beast King's Scarlet Flame Lion's lair to recuperate, right? Even if they thought that he had escaped to the Beast King's Scarlet Flame Lion's lair, with their strength, would they dare to come in and search for him? If they encountered the Beast King's Scarlet Flame Lion, only death awaited them. Lin Feng began to circulate the archaic dragonesque elephant art to heal his injuries. Waves of dragonesque elephant force began to flow within his body. His body quickly recovered. In the outskirts of the forest, swish, 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 one figure after another flew towards the battlefield. Looking at the dozens of forest giant wolves eating the corpses, the leader of the men of sacrifice looked extremely gloomy. "Are you the only ones left?" The leader of the men of sacrifice asked with a gloomy expression. He had just sent out a call. Now, besides him, there was a 7th Heaven Martial King Realm Cultivator and 2 4th Heaven Martial King Realm Cultivators. The rest did not come. Obviously, they were all dead. The 3 men of sacrifice lowered their heads. They looked incomparably unsightly. They had never thought that killing a severely injured person would cost them so much. Said the leader of the men of sacrifice gloomily. "It seems that the little boy has more powerful treasures than I thought." Even now, the leader of the men of sacrifice still thought that Lin Feng was so strong because of the treasures on his body, not because of Lin Feng's strength. After all, he was only at the 7th Heaven Martial King realm. How much fighting strength could he have? "Master, what should we do next?" asked the man of sacrifice who was at the 7th Heaven Martial King realm. The leader of the men of sacrifice looked into the distance and said, "That little boy must be hiding in the Beast King realm. The Beast King realm is very sensitive to its territory. If anyone dares to enter the Beast King realm carelessly, the Beast King realm will attack them, unless they can avoid the Beast King realm's detection. Like this, we'll guard the exits of the Beast King realm's territory. When that little boy comes out, we'll immediately send out a call." "Yes," replied the 3 men of sacrifice. Swoosh, swoosh, immediately after, the 3 men of sacrifice followed the leader of the men of sacrifice to the core of the Beast King realm's territory. They didn't enter the core of the Beast King realm. Instead, they spread out and waited for Lin Feng to appear. Finally, "I'm much better." Lin Feng opened his eyes and felt his body's condition. He couldn't help but sigh in relief. Even though his body hadn't fully recovered, he had recovered 80 to 90%. The wound on his back had also healed. Lin Feng opened the restrictive spells and sensed that the Beast King realm's Scarlet Flame Lion hadn't returned yet. He felt that it was time to leave. He shouldn't delay any longer. If he waited until the Beast King realm's Scarlet Flame Lion returned, He might not be able to leave even if he wanted to. Swoosh! Lin Feng flew outside. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt a shiver run down his spine. Even though it was dark around him and visibility was extremely low, Lin Feng noticed that there was a faint fluctuation in the air. Fluctuation of godly consciousness. He frowned. It had to be a cultivator's fluctuation of godly consciousness. Someone was using godly consciousness to scan the area. Lin Feng quickly dodged the godly consciousness. His mind was racing. Lin Feng was sure that it was the men of sacrifice. He recalled the scene when he had first encountered the men of sacrifice. Apart from the leader of the men of sacrifice, there were 2 men of sacrifice of the 7th celestial layer, 2 men of sacrifice of the 5th celestial layer, and 2 men of sacrifice of the 4th celestial layer. Now, 1 man of sacrifice in the 7th heaven of the martial king realm, 2 men of sacrifice in the 5th heaven of the martial king realm, and 5 men of sacrifice in the 4th heaven of the martial king realm had been killed by him. Now, there were only 4 men of sacrifice in the 10th heaven of the martial king realm, 1 man of sacrifice in the 7th heaven of the martial king realm, and 2 men of sacrifice in the 4th heaven of the martial king realm. Thinking about that, Lin Feng couldn't help but look cold. Since those people were using godly consciousness to search for him, he didn't mind getting rid of them silently. Whoosh! Lin Feng used the Dark Escape skill and disappeared silently. This Dark Escape skill was very magical. It directly avoided the detection of the men of sacrifice's godly consciousness. He locked onto a man of sacrifice of the 4th celestial layer martial king realm. The man of sacrifice was hiding in a big tree with his back against it. This was to prevent a sneak attack from behind. At this moment, the man of sacrifice of the 4th celestial layer martial king realm looked around cautiously. Waves of godly consciousness spread out in all directions with him as the center. Lin Feng hid himself deeply. This was not the time to assassinate this man of sacrifice, because once his real body appeared, he would definitely be detected by the man of sacrifice's godly consciousness. The best time to kill this man of sacrifice was when he was tired. Lin Feng was like the most experienced assassin, waiting for the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Chapter 470. Damn it! Where is that brat hiding? An hour later, the man of sacrifice at the 4th heaven of the martial king realm cursed. He had been searching with his divine sense for an hour without finding anything, so he was starting to feel tired. His companion shouted from afar, "Shuelao-san, did you find anything?" "Nothing. That brat is probably still hiding in the depths of the Beast King's territory. He might even have been eaten by the Scarlet Flame Lion." The cultivator called Shuelao-san curled his lips. "That brat won't die so easily. Rest for a while and continue searching with your divine sense. We can't let that brat escape." The other person spoke again. "Got it." The death warrior called Shuelao-san replied. He leaned against a tree and sat down to rest. He glanced at the pitch-black depths of the forest and frowned. He took out a bottle of wine and drank it. It was normal for cultivators to drink wine. Most of them drank it like water because the alcohol content of the Tianwu continent's wine was very low. "My chance is here." Lin Feng, who had been hiding in the darkness, suddenly felt his eyes light up. This was the moment when Shuelao-san was the most relaxed. This was the best time to assassinate him. Whoosh! Lin Feng silently disappeared. Buzz! Suddenly, a cold light descended from the sky, heading straight for him. Shuelao-san, who had been resting lazily on a tree, suddenly had a change in expression. When he saw who the sword-wielding man was, his face was filled with extreme shock. It was the person they had been chasing. He had actually recovered and avoided their divine sense to silently sneak over. Shuelao-san was shocked. He wanted to dodge, but it was too late. He wanted to shout and inform the others. But before Shuelao-san could open his mouth, Shuelao-san felt a pain in his head, and he could no longer speak. "Am I going to die just like that?" Shuelao-san's last thought flashed through his mind before he died. Phew! Lin Feng let out a long breath. Killing Shuelao-san had been very dangerous, but at least he had succeeded. Whoosh! Lin Feng did not stop. He quickly left and rushed towards the second cultivator in the 4th heaven of the martial king realm. This cultivator was also in a state of rest. This was a good opportunity for Lin Feng to assassinate this person. This cultivator's position was more suitable for assassination because he was sitting cross-legged on top of a 1,000-meter-tall mountain peak. There was nothing to cover his surroundings. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. This person actually chose such a place. Was it because he was confident in himself, or was he looking down on him? However, such a place was more suitable for him to assassinate this person. The man of sacrifice was sitting with his legs crossed. He had rested enough and was about to search with his divine sense. But at this moment, the death warrior felt a cold and gloomy aura enveloping his entire body. However, his reaction was already extremely fast. When Lin Feng released his killing intent, he had already sensed the approaching danger. However, it was already too late for him to react. Pooh! In the next moment, a long sword pierced through his chest. This death warrior was also stabbed to death by Lin Feng. Two more. Lin Feng took a deep breath. The last two people were also the two strongest. One was at the 7th heaven of the Martial King realm, and the other was at the 10th heaven of the Martial King realm. It wouldn't be easy to kill them. Looking at the corpse of the death warrior, Lin Feng thought of a wonderful idea. He found a set of night clothes in the death warrior's interspatial ring. Lin Feng put on the night clothes and covered his face. He quickly headed towards the 7th heaven Martial King realm man of sacrifice. This 7th heaven Martial King realm death warrior sat cross-legged in front of a cliff, blocking the possibility of someone sneaking up on him from behind. This person's vigilance was obviously extremely high. When he saw Lin Feng rushing over, he stood up. "Sir, I found a treasure here." Lin Feng imitated third brother Shue's voice. The 7th heaven Martial King realm expert asked, "What is it? Why did you leave your post and come here without permission?" Although there was a hint of blame in his tone, Lin Feng knew that the death warrior's eyes were shining. He was already interested in the fake treasure. "Sir, take a look and you'll know." Lin Feng walked over. Because the sky was dark and Lin Feng was wearing night clothes, plus he imitated third brother Shue's voice, the 7th heaven Martial King realm cultivator did not recognize that Lin Feng was a fake. Lin Feng lowered his head and came in front of the 7th heaven Martial King realm cultivator. "No, you're not third brother Shue, you're a fake?" Suddenly, the 7th heaven Martial King realm cultivator shouted angrily, raised his hand, and attacked Lin Feng. 1,000 meters away, the leader of the death warriors also heard the commotion and his expression changed slightly. That kid must have appeared. Whoosh! The leader of the men of sacrifice jumped up and rushed toward the men of sacrifice in the 7th heaven of the Martial King realm. At the same time, the 7th heaven Martial King realm cultivator had finished preparing his attack. However, Lin Feng had already made the first move. He used his strongest attack. A saber light pierced through heaven and earth, shattering mountains and rivers, and instantly slashed toward the 7th heaven Martial King realm cultivator. This was a saber light that contained a saber spirit, and its power was unimaginably terrifying. The saber light rushed over, emitting a shocking fluctuation, and instantly drowned the 7th heaven Martial King realm cultivator. If this person had used all his strength to protect his body and a defensive magic treasure, he might have been able to block Lin Feng's attack. However, Lin Feng did not give him enough time to deal with this. Lin Feng's attack was very sudden. No! The man of sacrifice in the 7th heaven of the Martial King realm let out a terrified cry. Puff! In the next moment, he was directly cut in half by the dazzling saber light. "Boy, you're courting death." The leader of the death warriors had already rushed over, but as soon as he arrived, he saw the scene of his subordinate being killed by Lin Feng. He roared and pulled out his long saber. Clang! The long saber moved, and a murderous aura spread out. 36 saber lights directly slashed toward Lin Feng. What a terrifying saber technique! Lin Feng was shocked. The cultivation of the leader of the death warriors was really terrifying. Lin Feng felt an indomitable domineering aura from the 36 saber lights. Saber techniques were one of the most domineering attacks, crushing everything with absolute power. Lin Feng took out the black dragon sword and held it horizontally in front of him. Clang, clang, clang. 36 consecutive saber lights fiercely bombarded the black dragon sword, and Lin Feng was sent flying. With a loud bang, Lin Feng's body hit a mountain. The whole mountain collapsed, burying Lin Feng in the ruins. Chapter 471. Lin Feng grimaced in pain. A cultivator at the 10th heaven of the martial king realm was really powerful. This blow almost took away Lin Feng's life. Lin Feng took a deep breath, and his eyes became extremely dignified. Bang! Rubble flew through the air. The next moment, Lin Feng jumped out of the ruins. Boy, 11 people. You killed 11 of our men of sacrifice. You deserve to die. The leader of the men of sacrifice looked at Lin Feng with gloomy eyes. Lin Feng said indifferently, judging from your tone, you should be a direct descendant of the Hellion clan, right? Your life is precious, and it is not comparable to these men of sacrifice. Why don't you leave? I will spare your life. Hearing Lin Feng's words, the leader of the men of sacrifice's face suddenly became extremely gloomy. This boy dared to say that he would spare his life? Didn't he know the situation he was facing now? Did this boy think that he could kill an expert at the 10th heaven of the martial king realm who had condensed a saber spirit with a powerful magic weapon? How stupid he was. The leader of the men of sacrifice looked at Lin Feng with contempt and coldness and said, Boy, you are about to die, yet you still dare to boast so shamelessly. This is really an eye-opener for me. I won't kill you directly later. I will first find out your secrets, and then I will torture you severely. I will let you have a taste of what it is like to live a life worse than death. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the leader of the men of sacrifice jumped out, raised his right hand, and blasted toward Lin Feng. The blow, with a violent sound of breaking the air, contained a power that could destroy heaven and earth and blasted down in an instant. Sky-dominating thunder technique. Lin Feng growled and ran the sky-dominating thunder technique. A thunderball condensed in his hand. Lin Feng was not afraid and rushed toward the leader of the men of sacrifice. Bang! With an earth-shaking bang, Lin Feng and the leader of the men of sacrifice fiercely collided. Under the attack of the Death Warrior leader, the lightning ball condensed by Lin Feng's Sky Tyrant Thunder secret art was broken. Lin Feng was sent flying by the Death Warrior leader's attack. The Sky Tyrant lightning art was powerful enough. However, the cultivation level of this Death Warrior leader was too high. The leader of the men of sacrifice looked indifferent. He quickly dashed towards Lin Feng and raised his right hand again to attack. The leader of the men of sacrifice was very experienced in fighting with enemies. After the successful attack, he didn't stop and continued to attack Lin Feng. He didn't want to give Lin Feng a chance to fight back. This attack was even more powerful. Lin Feng felt a dangerous aura. Just as the Death Warrior leader's attack was about to land on Lin Feng's body, a pair of golden energy wings appeared on Lin Feng's back. The wings suddenly flapped. Whoosh whoosh, Lin Feng quickly retreated dozens of meters and dodged the attack of the leader of the men of sacrifice. He floated in midair and panted violently. Although they had only exchanged a few blows, the energy and strength required to fight with such an expert was far more than that of an ordinary person. It was a huge consumption on one's body, especially on one's mental strength. When one's mental strength was sufficient, one would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. However, when one's mental strength was exhausted, one's body would also feel extremely tired. Fighting with an expert would undoubtedly consume a lot of mental strength, causing one's body to feel fatigued. You have a lot of tricks up your sleeves, but do you think you can escape from me like this? You're wrong. Today, I'll show you my ancient divine power, Blood Sea Fist skill. Along with his voice, the leader of the men of sacrifice began to perform the Blood Sea Fist skill. He swung his right fist and attacked Lin Feng. Buzz. Following that, endless blood-red light gushed out from his body. The man's dantian had turned into a blood-red ocean. God of the Blood Sea. A deep roar came from the sea, and a mysterious man in a blood robe walked out of the sea. It was the god of the Blood Sea that was manifested by his martial soul. The crimson figure instantly merged with the leader of the men of sacrifice. Crack, crack. The sound of bones rubbing against each other came from the leader of the men of sacrifice's body. His body had actually swelled up by a full size. It was so shocking that it was hard to believe. With the perfect fusion of the god of the blood sea and the leader of the men of sacrifice, his aura surged crazily. Increased combat strength. Lin Feng was horrified. It was so terrifying. The leader of the men of sacrifice was at the 10th heaven of the martial king realm. Lin Feng already had a hard time dealing with him, and he was even suppressed by him. Now, the leader of the men of sacrifice had merged with the god of the blood sea, which was condensed by his martial soul. His strength had greatly increased, and he was even more powerful than before. It would be much more difficult to deal with him. Wind blows, clouds fly, shouted Lin Feng in a deep voice. He didn't hold anything back either. He was using his most powerful attack. The Great Covering Hand was known as an Archean taboo skill. It was a supreme offensive skill recorded in the Archean Dragonesque Elephant skill. Boom, 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 boom. A huge hand that could blot out the sky was condensed and shot toward the leader of the men of sacrifice. What secret skill is this? How can it be so powerful? The leader of the men of sacrifice felt the terrifying aura of the huge hand. Even the leader of the men of sacrifice, who was so powerful, was shocked. He could sense a dangerous chi from Lin Feng's attack. The leader of the men of sacrifice could not believe it. He was at the 10th heaven of the martial king realm. The secret technique used by a martial general realm ant actually made him feel a sense of danger. It was like something out of a fairy tale, but now it had really happened. How many secrets does this boy have? The leader of the men of sacrifice could not help but think in horror. But then, he felt endless greed. If he could get all the secrets of this boy, how terrifying would his combat strength be? Thinking of this, the leader of the men of sacrifice became excited. Boom, boom. The leader of the men of sacrifice unleashed his strongest attack. Lin Feng's fist was filled with an incredible amount of blood-red lights. In a flash, his fist collided with Lin Feng's attack. Bang! Along with the earth-shattering sound, Lin Feng collided with the leader of the men of sacrifice again. Thump, thump, thump. This time, Lin Feng was not pushed back. Both of them took 3 steps back. This is impossible. The leader of the men of sacrifice roared in disbelief. A martial general realm cultivator had blocked the attack of a 10th heaven martial king realm cultivator. It was too unbelievable, but it happened right in front of his eyes. Chapter 472. Boy, I didn't expect you to hide your strength so well. The leader of the men of sacrifice took a deep breath and suppressed the shock in his heart. Compared to Lin Feng's shock, the leader of the men of sacrifice was more ecstatic at this moment. In his opinion, Lin Feng could not escape from him because he had mastered the saber spirit. The saber spirit was a kind of conception. It could be called saber conception. The cultivator gave the saber radiance will and formed the saber spirit. The saber that had attacked Lin Feng was such an attack. It was almost comparable to the attack of an expert in the yin-yang realm. I have many tricks up my sleeve. I think you should leave now. Otherwise, you will die here. Lin Feng sneered. The leader of the men of sacrifice looked gloomy. He looked at Lin Feng coldly and said, Boy, let's see who will live and who will die in the end. Whoosh! The leader of the men of sacrifice took out his long saber. Lin Feng looked serious. The leader of the men of sacrifice was obviously going to use his amazing saber technique. It was an attack that had comprehended the saber conception. Little boy, you didn't die from my blade last time. You're really lucky, but this time, you won't be so lucky. The leader of the men of sacrifice sneered. Blood sea torrential. The leader of the men of sacrifice shouted coldly. In the next moment, the leader of the men of sacrifice jumped out and soared into the sky like an eagle. He descended from the sky and attacked Lin Feng with his saber. Lin Feng sensed a dense number of blade silhouettes appear. Around him, the saber radiance was dazzling. He didn't know how many saber radiances were attacking him. This was an extremely terrifying attack. After the attack, Lin Feng fell into an illusion. You want to disturb my mind? Lin Feng looked indifferent. He closed his eyes and used his divine sense, which was comparable to the 7th sky of the yin-yang realm. Using divine sense to see the world was different from seeing the world with one's eyes. Looking at the world with one's eyes one could only see some superficial things. This was because human eyes were easily blinded. However, if one were to look at the world with one's spiritual will, one would be able to see more realistic things. When Lin Feng closed his eyes and probed with his spiritual force, he discovered that the densely packed saber lights had disappeared without a trace. As long as a saber light slashed towards him, scorching sun swordsmanship, Lin Feng shouted in a low voice. He waved the black dragon sword and slashed out. The blazing sun rose into the sky. The sword light was resplendent. The densely packed sword gleams slashed towards the other party. Clang. The attacks from both sides collided fiercely. The tyrannical energy fluctuations swept out, causing both of them to retreat continuously. At this moment, the leader of the men of sacrifice sneered. He waved his long saber and slashed at Lin Feng again. 9 blades of the berserk god. Saber after saber came slashing down. The power of each slash was stronger than the previous one. In the end, 9 saber lights slashed out. The 9 saber lights seemed to be able to tear the world apart in an instant. When the 9 saber lights came crashing down, they instantly merged into a dazzling saber light. The merged saber light was 100 meters long. It exuded an astonishing fluctuation and dazzling light. It slashed towards Lin Feng fiercely. What a powerful attack! Lin Feng's hair stood on end. A cultivator of the 10th Tian of the Huang Qi layer was terrifying. Kill! Lin Feng roared. Powerful genuine qi poured into the black dragon sword. Under Lin Feng's frenzied urging, the runes on the black dragon sword began to distort. Waves of black gas gushed out from the black dragon sword. At this moment, the power of the black dragon sword began to recover. Lin Feng held the black dragon sword with both hands and slashed towards the huge saber light that was 100 meters long. Clang! An earth-shattering sound rang out. Lin Feng held the black dragon sword and collided with the leader's attack. The black dragon sword emitted a dragon's roar. Lin Feng's sword was so powerful that it directly broke the leader's saber light. After breaking the saber light, Lin Feng instantly rushed in front of the leader. He waved his sword and slashed towards the leader. Lin Feng's speed was too fast. When he rushed over, the leader did not even have time to react. Lin Feng's sword had already slashed down. "You broke my saber technique?" The leader of the men of sacrifice shouted in disbelief. His blade was terrifyingly powerful. The leader of the death troops clearly understood that, but Lin Feng had broken his blade. That was a huge surprise for him. "It's the sword." The leader then looked at the sword in Lin Feng's hand. His eyes were full of greed. Facing Lin Feng's attack, the leader did not dodge. Instead, his body was covered with a thick layer of earth energy. Clang! Lin Feng's sword slashed down as if it had hit a magic weapon. Earth energy shield. Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. His attack had broken through the 100-meter-long blade, but it hadn't broken through the leader's protective qi. How terrifying was the qi of a cultivator of the 10th celestial layer? It was just earth energy. What if it transformed into Dharma power? Lin Feng quickly retreated, but it was too late, said the leader of the men of sacrifice while punching Lin Feng's chest. The tyrannical power poured into Lin Feng's body and immediately blew Lin Feng away. Then, the leader attacked again. He slashed at Lin Feng. The dazzling saber light flew out. When the saber light came, Lin Feng felt threatened. Originally, the leader wanted to capture Lin Feng. However, when he saw how difficult it was to deal with Lin Feng, he wanted to kill Lin Feng. The attack contained a powerful saber essence. The saber light was endowed with will by the leader. It had a saber spirit. Terrifying. The attack was so terrifying that Lin Feng felt terrified. Saber light, slash. Lin Feng shouted in a low voice. He directly took out the saber light that he had refined. It was also a saber light with will. Clang! The 2 blade lights fiercely collided with each other, entangling in mid-air. "That's the saber light I slashed out? How did you manage to unleash the saber light that I slashed out?" shouted the leader when he saw Lin Feng's saber light. He couldn't believe it. Opportunity. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He used all his strength to activate another secret technique that he had just learned. Soul miniature person holding sword. That secret soul technique was much more powerful than the soul sword technique. An invisible soul condensed into a soul miniature person. It held a sword and rushed towards the leader in a flash. The leader's emotions were fluctuating. His earth energy wasn't as strong as before. The soul miniature person waved its sword. Slash. A moment later, the leader's protective earth energy was torn apart. What? The leader of the men of sacrifice shouted in disbelief. My head is going to split open. At the next moment, the leader of the men of sacrifice let out a miserable shriek. He's been hit. Good opportunity. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. He held the black dragon sword and rushed towards the leader. He waved his sword and slashed at the leader. Chapter 473. This was the best opportunity to kill the leader of the men of sacrifice. This man's soul had been injured by Lin Fan, so he had no power to fight back. Lin Feng was shocked by the power of the secret skill of the little soul man. It could even split open the protective chi of a level 10 Martial King realm expert. This secret skill was really terrifying. If he had known earlier, he would have extorted more powerful secret skills of the soul from the Azura ghost Luo Yan. Lin Feng's sword was about to hit the leader of the men of sacrifice, but at this moment, the leader suddenly took out a jade talisman. The jade talisman emitted a shocking energy fluctuation. Magical talisman. Lin Feng's face suddenly changed. He was a spiritual array master, so he knew how terrifying this jade talisman was. Lin Feng quickly retreated. Bang! Then, the jade talisman exploded. A powerful energy swept out, and Lin Feng was blown away by the aftermath of the energy. His body fell directly into the forest. Cough, cough. Are you trying to kill me? Lin Feng couldn't help but get up from the ground gloomily. Fortunately, he had dodged quickly. If he had been at the center of the explosion, he would have been killed. At this moment, the leader of the men of sacrifice had disappeared. He ran away. Forget it. Let him run away. Lin Feng soared into the sky and flew away. Damn it, damn it. I, Helian Zhan, am a cultivator of the 10th heavenly layer of the Martial King layer, an existence who has comprehended blade intent, yet I almost died at the hands of an ant of the Martial General layer. What a great shame, what a great shame. The leader of the men of sacrifice's face was ferocious. He had thought that Lin Feng would definitely die, but in the end, he had almost died at the hands of Lin Feng. This was a great shame for the leader of the men of sacrifice. It would even leave a shadow in his heart and hinder his future cultivation. Whoosh! Suddenly, a silhouette flashed from afar. The leader of the men of sacrifice was shocked. He thought that it was Lin Feng who had chased after them. However, after taking a careful look, he realized that it wasn't Lin Feng. He also knew the person who had appeared. It was Lin Feng, the patriarch of the Nalan family. Clan leader Nalan personally came to kill that brat to avenge Nalan Kong? The leader of the men of sacrifice was somewhat surprised. He naturally knew that Lin Feng had killed Nalan Kong. Initially, the leader of the men of sacrifice thought that the Nalan family would send some experts to kill Lin Feng. However, he never thought that Nalan Hong would personally take action. Helian Zhan's injuries aren't light. Nalan Hong squinted at Helian Zhan. Helian Zhan frowned. He could sense that Nalan Hong was looking at him in a strange way. It made him feel extremely uneasy. Even though the Nalan family and the Helian family weren't enemies in the Fog City, they weren't allies either. Therefore, at that moment, when he saw Nalan Hong in the middle of nowhere, the leader of the men of sacrifice was quite worried. He tried his best to regain his composure and said, "Clan leader Nalan, you should hurry up and chase that brat. He shouldn't have run too far away. He has many incredible treasures and secret techniques. If he escapes, clan leader Nalan, you'll regret it." The leader of the men of sacrifice had sensed that something was wrong. That was why he had warned Nalan Hong. He wanted to bring disaster to Nalan Hong. "Don't worry. Before I chase that brat, I want to kill you first. You're in charge of the men of sacrifice of the Helian family. If I kill you, the men of sacrifice of the Helian family will be like a group of dragons without a leader. The Helian family's influence will be greatly reduced. At that time, the Nalan family won't mind encroaching on the Helian family's territory and businesses." As soon as he finished speaking, Na Lan Kong exploded and charged toward the leader of the men of sacrifice. The leader of the men of sacrifice was terrified. He turned around and ran, but he was injured. Nalan Hong was at his peak. The leader of the men of sacrifice didn't run far before Nalan Hong caught up with him. Nalan Hong turned into a golden light and instantly tore the leader's body apart. Puff! The leader of the men of sacrifice was torn in half and his body fell down. Whoosh! Nalan Hong didn't stop. He chased after Lin Feng. What a terrifying aura! It's a yin-yang cultivator. Feeling the aura in the forest in the distance, Lin Feng was shocked. Although Nalan Hong had only killed the leader of the men of sacrifice in an instant, he had still leaked his own aura. Lin Feng didn't dare hesitate. He turned around and flew away. After more than an hour, Nalan Hong's figure appeared behind him. "Brat, you can't escape." Nalan Hong's eerie and terrifying voice was heard. Lin Feng turned around, and his expression became serious. He had seen this person before. It was the person who had appeared on the day Zi Yuan awakened. He had released a murderous aura, and it was really directed at him. "Who are you? Do you have a grudge against me?" Lin Feng asked in a low voice. "You killed my son, Nalan Kong. I'll crush your bones and scatter your ashes." Nalan Hong's voice was filled with cold, murderous intent. "You're Nalan Hong, the leader of the Nalan family. As the leader of a family, a yin-yang cultivator wants to kill a general cultivator like me. Don't you have any shame?" Lin Feng sneered. "Brat, even if you have a glib tongue, you can't escape death." Nalan Hong's cold voice was heard again. Lin Feng's expression was gloomy. He sped up. If Nalan Hong caught up with him, he would die. On a spaceship. "Cousin, wake up." The next morning, Zi Yuan woke up and went to wake Lin Feng up. However, she found that the room was empty. Lin Feng wasn't there. Zi Yuan panicked. "Cousin, where are you?" Zi Yuan frantically looked for Lin Feng, but she couldn't find any trace of Lin Feng. "Uncle Master, where's my cousin?" Zi Yuan looked at Ruolan, who had just walked out of the room. Ruolan said, "I haven't told you about this yet. Your cousin decided to stay in the desolate region to cultivate, so he left last night. Before he left, he told me to tell you that he wants you to cultivate well and not slack off." "No, he won't leave me alone. I'm going to find him." Zi Yuan was about to rush out of the ship, but Lan Rua stopped her. Lan Rua said, "Silly girl, your cousin is only staying in the desolate region to cultivate. He might join a large sect, but nothing will happen to him. Your cultivation is too low, so if you stay by his side, he won't be able to protect you if you run into danger. You might even implicate him. Is that what you want to see?" "Implicate him?" Zi Yuan's voice trembled. She recalled the scene when the Blackwater mystical snake's terrifying strike came, how her young master hugged her and exposed her to the Blackwater mystical snake, and how he was severely injured in the end. She also recalled the scene when Nalan Kong, Helian Zhe, and the others were chasing after them. Her young master told her to leave first, and he stopped them. "No, I don't want to be a burden. I have to become stronger. That's the only way I can help my prince. That's the only way I won't be a burden to him." Zi Yuan bit her lip and ran out of the cabin. She shouted, "Cousin, Zi Yuan will definitely become stronger. I won't be a burden to you anymore. Zi Yuan will protect you in the future." Zi Yuan didn't want to leave Lin Feng. However, in order to not implicate Lin Feng, she chose to leave the desolate region with Lan Rua. 2 lines of tears flowed down her beautiful face uncontrollably. They had chased each other for 100,000 li. They had chased each other in the ancient forest, in the vast grassland, in the dangerous swamp world, and even in the desert. Lin Feng had run to many places, but he hadn't been able to get rid of Nalan Hong. Lin Feng clutched spirit stones with both hands and chewed on spirit herbs, trying to recover his true chi as quickly as possible. However, he still felt exhausted. "Kid, you really can run. You've been running for 10 days. Let's see how long you can last." Nalan Hong's voice was filled with killing intent. Nalan Hong's expression could no longer be described as gloomy. He was at the yin-yang realm, and he had been chasing after a brat at the martial general realm for a full 10 days. This made Nalan Hong extremely angry. Lin Feng didn't say anything. He needed to conserve his energy. In the distance, a small town appeared. People could be seen coming and going. Whoosh! Lin Feng rushed over. He shouted, "Is there any senior who can save me? Nailin Hong, the head of the Nailin family in the Fog City, has been chasing me for 10 days and 10 nights. If anyone can help me, I'll remember it and repay you generously in the future." What? Nailin Hong is chasing you? No way. Nailin Hong is a tyrant. Why would he chase after a puny general cultivator? Many people were shocked and rushed over. "Kid, I'm going to grind your bones to dust." Nailin Hong chased after him and heard Lin Feng shout. He was so angry that his nose was about to become crooked. He was a cultivator of the yin and yang layer, and he had chased after a cultivator of the general layer. That was a disgraceful thing to do. He could imagine how many strong cultivators would laugh at him in the future. When Nalan Hong thought about that, he had the urge to cut Lin Feng into pieces. Chapter 474. It's really Nailin Hong. Heavens! He's a peerless cultivator at the yin-yang layer, and he's actually chasing after a little general cultivator. Nailin Hong is such a shameless person. How did he become the leader of the Nailin clan? Many people were pointing and discussing animatedly. All of them had looks of disdain. Nailin Hong almost coughed up blood when he heard them. But they didn't stop Nalan Hong from chasing Lin Feng and killing Lin Feng. Nobody would offend a strong cultivator like Nailin Hong for a little general cultivator. F***CK. Are there no chivalrous people these days? When Lin Feng saw that the crowd was only watching without any intention of helping him, he couldn't help but feel depressed. He was in a very bad situation. He had been running for 10 days and 10 nights. His body was about to reach its limit. If he couldn't find a way to get rid of Nailin Hong, he would die. 50 miles to the west is the famous forbidden area, the Lake of Death. Whether you live or die there depends on your luck. At that moment, a voice entered Lin Feng's ears. Someone transmitted their voice to him. "Thank you." Lin Feng thanked them and didn't dare stay. He flew towards the Lake of Death. He didn't know what was going on with the Lake of Death, but since the person who had warned him had said that the Lake of Death was a forbidden area, he knew how terrifying the Lake of Death was. There was also a forbidden area in the eastern region, the Undying Mountain Range. In the past, Lin Feng had entered the Undying Mountain Range and narrowly escaped with his life. Swoosh! Lin Feng pushed his speed to the limit. Nailin Hong chased after Lin Feng, but at that moment, a resplendent sword chi pierced through the air and slashed towards Nailin Hong. Nailin Hong shouted furiously and slashed with his palm, destroying the sword chi. "Your Excellency, do you want to become my enemy?" Nailin Hong looked extremely gloomy. He hadn't thought that someone would actually dare to attack him. Obviously, the person who had attacked did not want to offend Nailin Hong. After stopping Nailin Hong for a while, he did not attack again. Nailin Hong's expression was gloomy as he chased after Lin Feng. There are still good people in this world. Lin Feng was so moved that tears started flowing down his cheeks. His opponent's sword strike had won Lin Feng the most precious time. A quarter of an hour later, Lin Feng finally arrived in front of the Lake of Death. Looking from afar, it was a world shrouded in black fog, emitting an eerie and terrifying aura. "Die, brat." Nailin Hong chased after Lin Feng, reaching out his hand to grab him. Buzz. In the void, an incomparably huge energy hand suddenly condensed and grabbed at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's face was filled with shock when he felt the aura of the energy hand. The energy hand was too terrifying, and it made him feel suffocated. Lin Feng knew that he couldn't stay any longer. If he did, only death would await him. He rushed towards the world shrouded in black fog. However, as soon as Lin Feng reached the edge, a terrifying aura enveloped him. Crack, crack. Lin Feng felt like his bones were about to be crushed. At that moment, Nailin Hong's huge hand had already reached him. "Ah, my life is over," Lin Feng shouted in fear. Bang! Nailin Hong's attack was met with the attack of the world of black fog. Dense black fog poured out and collided with Nailin Hong's attack. Lin Feng had thought that he was going to die, but unexpectedly, Nailin Hong's collision with the world of black fog had helped him. The terrifying aura enveloping him had decreased by a lot. Lin Feng then used the ancient dragonesque elephant art. Under the ancient dragonesque elephant art circulation, all the aura disappeared, and Lin Feng took the opportunity to rush into the world of black fog. Buzz. Within the world of black fog, a terrifying demonic chi swept out, shattering Nalin Hong's attack and sweeping towards him. Break! Nalin Hong roared and waved his right hand, condensing a divine ability and attacking the demonic chi. However, the demonic chi was too terrifying, and it sent Nalin Hong flying again. Wah! Nalin Hong spat out a mouthful of blood. When he saw the demonic chi sweeping towards him again, he frantically fled into the distance to avoid the attack. How terrifying! Many of the cultivators who had rushed over were shocked. The Lake of Death was really strange. Just a wave of demonic chi had almost killed a yin-yang realm cultivator. The demonic chi finally flew back into the world of black fog. Nalin Hong's face was very gloomy. He gritted his teeth and rushed towards the world of black fog. A terrifying aura enveloped Nalin Hong, but Nalin Hong successfully blocked it. This person's cultivation level was abnormally high, and he broke through the pressure of the world of black fog and rushed in. It looks like that kid is definitely going to die. He's being chased by such a powerful person. Is there a grudge between the two of them? Maybe there is a grudge, but if it's just a grudge, Nalin Hong shouldn't be so desperate, right? I'm guessing that the kid has something that has piqued Nalin Hong's interest. Many cultivators were discussing this matter, but they didn't disperse. Instead, they stayed outside the Lake of Death and watched. Poof, poof. The sound of a body being pierced through could be heard. Lin Feng smiled bitterly as he looked at his own body. He even had a look of despair on his face because he didn't know what kind of power had pierced through his body. Lin Feng was almost covered in blood. Am I going to die here? Lin Feng muttered. Not far away, a sinister laughter sounded. Lin Feng looked over and saw a skinny old man in a black robe. He was the one who had made that hair-raising sound. The old man glanced at Lin Feng, and when their eyes met, Lin Feng felt as if he was about to fall into an endless purgatory. What a terrifying existence. Is he an expert from the evil demon sect? Lin Feng was shocked. He was a bit worried that the old devil would eat him. Lin Feng had heard that some experts from the evil demon sect like to refine the flesh and soul of cultivators to improve themselves. However, he quickly realized that he was overthinking. The old devil only glanced at Lin Feng, then turned around and continued walking deeper into the lake. He didn't seem to have any intention of paying attention to Lin Feng. His gaze was as if he was looking at an ant. Ordinary people wouldn't pay attention to an ant when they saw one. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. Being weak really made people look down on him. The old devil wasn't attacked. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. He gritted his teeth and walked towards the old devil. A dozen more bloody holes appeared on Lin Feng's body. Finally, he arrived at the place where the old devil had been standing. Lin Feng sensed a terrifying twisting force there. It seemed to be isolating him from the mysterious power of the black fog world. Is this the power coming from the old devil's body? This old devil is really terrifying. Lin Feng followed the path the old devil had taken. He didn't encounter any more attacks. Finally, he arrived at a pitch-black lake. It was the first time Lin Feng had seen such a huge lake. It was pitch black. The old devil stood on the shore, his green eyes gazing into the depths of the lake. Lin Feng didn't know what the old devil was looking at. The old devil would occasionally let out a strange laughter that sounded like the weeping of a malicious spirit. Lin Feng felt his hair stand on end. Chapter 475. The old monster looked into the depths of the cave with a profound gaze. No one knew what he was looking at. Lin Feng also looked towards the depths of the Lake of Death. This Lake of Death was very strange. The pitch-black lake water emitted a gloomy and terrifying aura. This was a power that was enough to make people's hearts palpitate. When that cold aura entered his body, Lin Feng felt as if his body was about to lose consciousness. Some unknown power was escaping from the Lake of Death. Lin Feng frowned. This Lake of Death was actually so strange. Just what kind of secret was hidden inside? Such a strange black fog world should be related to the Lake of Death, right? Kid, come out. Lin Feng's complexion slightly changed. Nalan Hong had also chased after them. This made Lin Feng's complexion extremely ugly. With Nalan Hong's strength, it wouldn't take long for him to find Lin Feng. Roar. At this time, a low roar came from the depths. Rumble. The earth was shaking. Lin Feng's expression changed. He didn't know what was happening. He looked into the depths and saw a terrifying scene. A huge creature rushed out from the lake. It was a giant beast that was 1,000 meters long. But what shocked Lin Feng was that it was not a living creature with flesh and blood, but a bone dragon. The bone dragon circled in the air and engaged in a fierce battle with an old woman. Granny Fecta. Lin Feng was astonished. He hadn't expected it to be this person. Back then, they had crossed the magnetic fog lake on Daoist Xiancheng's ship. However, they encountered the dark water mystical snake, the overlord of the magnetic fog lake, and the ship was destroyed. After that, Lin Feng never saw Granny Fecta again. This old woman is so powerful. Lin Feng was shaken in his heart. This old woman really hid her strength well. It shocked and moved him. Whoosh! The old devil soared into the sky and charged toward the bone dragon. Haha, Granny Fecta, it's been 3,000 years, but you're still as beautiful as ever. The old monster shouted. Lin Feng almost had the urge to vomit blood. Granny Tianji was so old. Was she still as graceful as before? This old devil really has a heavy taste. Granny Fecta said indifferently, "You're still alive? You've lived for a long time." The old devil shouted, "Even the heavens can't take me." This old devil is really arrogant. Lin Feng secretly smacked his lips. However, thinking about how terrifying the old monster was, he couldn't help but guess what level the old monster and old woman's cultivation were at. At the same time, Lin Feng was also wondering why these two terrifying existences had come here. Boom! The great battle had completely erupted, and it was extremely tragic. The void had been pierced through, and Lin Feng could even see the distorted and broken void. What level of battle is this? Lin Feng turned pale with fright. Slash! The old devil and the old woman both took out their treasures. These treasures emitted the aura of the heavenly Tao and were rumored to be able to strike down the stars in outer space. Tao soldier! Lin Feng cried out in surprise. It was actually a precious treasure of this level. This was the first time he had seen it. The old devil and the old woman took out their Tao soldiers and slashed at the bone dragon. The bone dragon roared, and the water from the lake of death gushed out, enveloping the Tao soldiers and the old woman. Crack, crack, a hair-raising thing happened. When the water from the lake of death splashed onto the Tao weapons of the old woman and the old devil began to crack. Heavens! How is this possible? It's just lake water. How can it destroy the Tao soldiers? When Lin Feng saw that, he couldn't believe his eyes. There was no need to explain how powerful Tao soldiers were. They were divine weapons that had been fused with the Tao and magic, but they had been destroyed by the lake of death. They were supreme treasures, but they had been unable to resist the corrosion of the lake of death. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the lake of death's water was. Return! The old devil and the old woman shouted and quickly recalled their Tao soldiers. Both of them had pained expressions. They didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly rushed into the lake. Seeing this, Lin Feng was even more shocked. The lake of death was strong enough to destroy Tao soldiers, but the two of them had actually dove into it. Their bodies had even resisted the lake of death's water. It was hard to imagine how strong they were. Roar! The bone dragon roared furiously and rushed into the lake of death, chasing after the old devil and the old woman. Could it be that there's something amazing hidden under the lake of death? Is the bone dragon protecting the thing under the lake of death? Lin Feng couldn't help but think of this possibility. However, his cultivation was limited, and these secrets weren't something Lin Feng could explore. Kid, I can already sense your aura. You're not far from death. At that moment, Nalan Hong's cold voice rang out once more. Lin Feng's gaze was ice-cold. Now, he was trapped here by Nalan Hong, and Lin Feng clearly couldn't stay here for long. The energy left behind by the old devil was becoming thinner and thinner. Once all of it dissipated, Lin Feng knew that his body would be pierced through again and again like before. Until his heart was pierced or his blood ran dry, he would die here. If he chose to rush out now, he would be caught by Nalan Hong. At that time, only death would await him. Lin Feng looked at the lake of death. This lake was strong enough to destroy a Dao soldier. From this, one could see how terrifying it was. A Dao soldier's body was far stronger than a yin-yang realm cultivator's. Could he borrow the lake of death's water to kill Nalan Hong? When he thought of this, Lin Feng decided to take a gamble. He took out a porcelain bottle and wanted to fill it with the lake water. Crack! The bottle shattered. It couldn't withstand the water at all. Lin Feng took out his cauldron. Crack! However, the cauldron also shattered. This won't do. The cauldron will be destroyed by the lake of death. What should I do? Lin Feng's expression was gloomy. He finally gritted his teeth and decided to take a gamble. Lin Feng activated the archaic dragonesque elephant art and used it to protect his body. Then, the archaic dragonesque elephant power surged out and swept up a large amount of the lake of death's water. Chi. However, at that moment, something terrifying happened. The lake of death's water was instantly permeated by the archaic dragonesque elephant power and surged towards Lin Feng's power. The archaic dragonesque elephant power protecting Lin Feng's body couldn't withstand the corrosion of the lake of death's water at all. Crack! Crack! The sound of his body cracking could be heard. Lin Feng lowered his head and looked at his body. He saw a terrifying scene. His body began to crack. Lin Feng screamed. He tried his best to sprinkle the lake water into the lake of death. However, at that moment, Lin Feng was shocked to discover that the lake of death's water had surrounded him like maggots. Crack! Crack! Just like the two Dao soldiers, Lin Feng's body kept cracking. Blood flowed out, and it seemed like his body was going to shatter into pieces. Chapter 476. It was a terrifying scene. Lin Feng sensed death enveloping his body. The water of the lake of death was terrifying. No wonder it could destroy a primordial treasure. Killing him wouldn't be difficult. I miscalculated, Lin Feng sighed. Originally, he wanted to use the water of the lake of death to kill Nalan Hong. But now, Nalan Hong was still alive. It seemed like he would die under the corrosion of the lake of death first. But Lin Feng didn't regret taking the risk. Even if he didn't take the risk, he would die. He would still die. Taking the risk was worth it. Crack! Crack! The water of the lake of death was destroying Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng had a bad feeling. He couldn't stop his life from fading away. It was a terrible feeling. Lin Feng felt powerless. I wonder if the heavenly fire will work? Lin Feng took a deep breath and released his heavenly fire. It wrapped around Lin Feng's body. When the water of the lake of death started to destroy Lin Feng's body, it was blocked by the heavenly fire. Is it really possible? Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised. He had thought that he would die, but the feeling of being alive was too good. But soon, Lin Feng discovered something terrifying. The water of the lake of death was penetrating his heavenly fire's defenses and destroying his body. It's so monstrous. Lin Feng was astonished. He didn't know what kind of terrifying power the water of the lake of death contained. It was so strange that Lin Feng felt his hair stand on end. Fight! Lin Feng clenched his teeth. He had to hurry up and kill Nalan Hong. If he wasted too much time, the consequences would be unpredictable. The most terrifying thing was that the water of the lake of death would break through his heavenly fire's defenses. If that happened, Lin Feng would definitely die. Lin Feng released the ancient dragonesque elephant strength and continued absorbing the water of the lake of death. Crack! Crack! Large amounts of water from the lake of death continued to corrode Lin Feng's heavenly flames. The heavenly flames' defense was crumbling. This made Lin Feng aghast. The water of the lake of death was too strange. Let's go. Lin Feng didn't dare to hesitate and quickly rushed outside. Kid, where are you? Where are you hiding? Soon, Lin Feng heard Nalan Hong's roar. This Nalan Hong was really powerful. The power that penetrated Lin Feng's body didn't cause any harm to Nalan Hong. Lin Feng looked at him and understood why. Nalan Hong's body was wrapped in a powerful magic power. It was the magic power that protected his body from external attacks. Lin Feng did not have any magic power, so his body was penetrated. Nalanhong, die! Shouted Lin Feng furiously. He quickly threw himself at Nalanhong. Kid, there's a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. There's no gate to hell, but you're stupid enough to take the initiative to die. Since you're dead, I'll grant you your wish, said Nalanhong coldly. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Lin Feng. Rumbling sounds spread in the air. A gigantic hand appeared in the sky and moved towards Lin Feng, but Lin Feng increased his speed and dodged the attack. In the blink of an eye, he appeared above Nalanhong. He released his heavenly flames and the water of the lake of death, pouring it towards Nalanhong. Said Nalanhong disdainfully, Kid, what are you doing? Do you want to use the water to harm me? I've heard that the water of the lake of death can corrode treasures, but do you think that a mere lake of death can destroy my heavenly flames? Nalanhong stretched out his hand, trying to sweep the water away. However, when the water of the lake of death came in contact with Nalanhong's heavenly flames, it instantly penetrated his heavenly flames. Then, it penetrated Nalanhong's body. Nalanhong shrieked miserably. His body started cracking and rotting. Lin Feng knew how terrifying the water of the lake of death was. You little bastard! You dared trick me! Nalanhong shrieked miserably. He soared into the sky and flew out of the black fog world. Nalanhong was in so much pain that he almost died. He was rolling in the air. Heavens! Look! What's going on? Nalanhong's body is rotting. Many people shouted in astonishment. Circulate your heavenly flames! Shouted Nalanhong furiously. He circulated his heavenly flames like crazy. He wanted to use his heavenly flames to force the water of the lake of death out of his body. However, Nalanhong failed. He was shocked to discover that no matter what he did, he couldn't force the water out of his body. However, what made Nalanhong feel a little better was that although the lake water had caused great damage to his body, the power of the lake water was slowly weakening. Clearly, the lake water of the lake of death could not continue to exert its effect. Nalanhong, die! Shouted Nalanhong coldly from the black fog world. Lin Feng's body was surrounded by flames. He used the strength of the ancient dragonesque elephant to force the water out of the black fog world again. When he saw that, Nalanhong's expression changed drastically. He had already experienced how terrifying the water of the lake of death was. When he saw Lin Feng force the water out of the lake of death again, he didn't dare stay any longer. He ran away madly. No way. He's being chased by a little general? Many cultivators were dumbstruck. They didn't understand what was going on. Look, that little guy is surrounded by black water. It seems to be the water of the lake of death. I've heard that the water of the lake of death can even kill almighty cultivators. He actually managed to force the water out of the lake of death and didn't die. Could the rumors be false? Someone asked doubtfully. Is there such a rumor? Why haven't I heard of it before? Asked another cultivator. He found it unbelievable. It was just the water of the lake of death. How could it kill an almighty cultivator? It's just a rumor. Very few people know about it. It's said that 1,000 years ago, an almighty cultivator entered the lake of death to look for something, but he died tragically in the water. One of the cultivators explained, but he soon added, now, it seems that the rumors were false. If he could really kill an almighty being, that Marshal General Brat would have died 1,000 times over. How could he have swept the water of the lake of death out of the black fog world? Many people nodded. They felt that the cultivator's words made sense. At that moment, Lin Feng caught up with Nalanhong. Lin Feng looked indifferent. He looked coldly at Nalanhong. It's time to end this. Asterisk splash. Asterisk a large amount of water from the lake of death poured down on Nalanhong. No. Nalanhong let out a terrified cry. But in the next moment, he was submerged by the water of the lake of death. The water of the lake of death seeped into Nalanhong's body. This time, Nalanhong wasn't able to resist the corrosion of the water. His body was corroded into a pile of rotten flesh, and he fell from the sky. Heavens, Nalanhong was corroded by the water of the lake of death. The rumors are true. The water of the lake of death might really be able to kill an almighty cultivator. Many people looked at the pile of rotten flesh falling from the sky in horror. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk Lin Feng gritted his teeth and endured the pain. He quickly rushed into the distance and disappeared into the forest. Chapter 477. The wasteland was vast and boundless, and there were many ancient sections. There were also 4 ancient powers that had existed for hundreds of thousands of years without weakening. This was an extremely powerful region, and there were as many strong cultivators as there were clouds. But now, the wasteland was shaken because of something. Nalan Hong of the Nalan family of the Fog City was killed by a general realm cultivator outside the Lake of Death. It had been many years since an important person had died in the wasteland, and Nalan Hong was the first important person to die in a battle in the past 10,000 years. This was already enough to cause a stir. But what was even more unbelievable was that Nalan Hong had been killed by a general realm cultivator. This was simply inconceivable. A general realm cultivator was as weak as an ant in front of a martial king, not to mention a yin-yang realm cultivator. But how was he able to kill a yin-yang realm cultivator? Many powers sent people to the Lake of Death to investigate. Fog City, Nalan family. The 2 ancestors of the Nalan family who were in seclusion had personally come out. Even the members of the Nalan family thought that these 2 ancestors had died long ago, but in reality, they hadn't. They had only been in seclusion and hadn't appeared for 300 years. Ancestor, the head of the family, died so miserably. It's said that his body was corroded by the water of the Lake of Death and turned into a pile of rotten flesh. Ancestor, please take revenge for the head of the family. The upper echelons of the Nalan clan were kneeling in front of 2 old men who had just come out of seclusion. One of the 2 old men was wearing white clothes, and the other was wearing gray clothes. Their bodies were bent and very pale. Their eyes were flashing with a green light. After the Nalan clansmen saw this, they felt a kind of fear. It was as if they were facing 2 evil spirits that had just crawled out of the grave. This kind of feeling made them feel a kind of creepy feeling. The gray-robed old man said gloomily, "What a little bastard. Big brother will take care of the family, and I'll go and kill that little bastard." The white-robed old man nodded and said, "All right. Don't kill that brat directly. He's full of secrets. Capture him and interrogate him. It won't be too late to kill him after you get all his secrets." The gray-robed old man nodded and immediately soared into the sky, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Hellion family. You're saying that our clan's death warriors, including Hellion Jun, were all killed by that brat? Nalan Hong was killed by that brat as well? Clan leader Hellion Jung looked at the 3rd elder with a gloomy expression. The 3rd elder nodded and smiled bitterly. "We've lost contact with Hellion Jun. It seems that he's fallen." Damn it. Hellion Zheng's gaze was extremely gloomy. He and Hellion Jun were childhood playmates. Later on, when he became the clan leader, he supported Hellion Jun to become the leader of the Loyalists. In these past few years, they cooperated very well, one in the open and one in the dark. Now that Hellion Jun was dead, the position of leader of the Loyalists was vacant. Hellion Zhang felt a headache when he thought of the great elder's wild ambition. It's all that bastard Hellion Zay's fault. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have sent Hellion Jun to chase after that brat, causing Hellion Jun's tragic death. Hellion Zhang said in exasperation. "Patriarch, what should we do now?" asked the 3rd elder. He frowned and said, "I'm afraid that the great elder will make a move soon." Hellion Zhang asked, "What about the Nalan clan?" "I heard that the 2 old bastards of the Nalan clan are still alive and have already come out of seclusion," said the 3rd elder. "That brat was able to kill Hellion Jun and Nalan Hong. He's obviously not simple. Now, the Hellion clan is facing internal and external troubles. I can only let Hellion Jun down. I can't avenge him. Let the Nalan clan deal with that brat." Hellion Zhang sighed. "Patriarch, you're doing this for the sake of the big picture. Hellion Jun will not blame you when he learns of your decision in the underworld," said the 3rd elder hurriedly. "I hope so." Hellion Zhang sighed. Hellion Zhang didn't know that the decision he had made today would prevent the Hellion clan from being uprooted in the future. In the depths of the ancient forest, in a hidden cave, although the outside world was abuzz with the news that he had killed Nalan Hong, Lin Feng didn't know anything about it. He had already been in seclusion for half a month. Although he had killed Nalan Hong, some of the water in the lake had died. If Lin Feng hadn't used the heaven flame to suppress the water, he would have died many times over. Lin Feng didn't know how many times he would have died. During that time, Lin Feng had been trying his best to dissolve the water in his body. After half a month, Lin Feng had finally dissolved the water in the lake. The water in the lake was really strange. Luckily, Lin Feng had the heaven flame in his body. If he didn't have the heaven flame, Lin Feng wouldn't have been able to refine the water in the lake. "I've finally dissolved the strange water in the lake." Lin Feng took a deep breath. He frowned slightly and couldn't help but think of the time when he saw the old devil and the old woman rushing into the depths of the lake. He didn't know what those two experts were doing. Thinking that this matter wasn't something he could consider with his current strength, Lin Feng couldn't help but bitterly smile. He left his seclusion. 10 days later, Lin Feng saw a small town. The town was bustling with people coming and going. Lin Feng entered the town. Currently, many cultivators in the town were talking about Nalan Hong's death. However, Lin Feng felt that it was normal. After all, the death of a yin-yang realm expert would definitely cause a huge uproar. Lin Feng planned to find a place to rest before heading to Nebula Pavilion. Nebula Pavilion was located in Nebula City. Nebula City was one of the 10 great ancient capitals of the wasteland. Nebula Pavilion was the overlord of the city. At the same time, Nebula Pavilion was also one of the 4 great ancient powers of the wasteland. Lin Feng hoped to join Nebula Pavilion to cultivate. "Little brother, I wonder if you're heading to Nebula City?" Suddenly, an inquiring voice sounded. Lin Feng turned around and saw a young man around 27 or 28 years old. The young man was tall, but his face was simple and honest. When he saw Lin Feng turn around, he couldn't help but scratch his head. Lin Feng nodded and said, "I do plan to do so." "What's wrong? Brother, are you also heading to Nebula City?" The young man said, that's right. I'm also heading to Nebula City. The place we're at right now is called Pingyao Town. It's still half a month's journey from Nebula City, but this journey is filled with danger. Not only are there powerful vicious beasts, there are also some powerful bandits. If you're not careful, you might die tragically on this journey. That's why I want to invite you to join our group. Chapter 478. Lin Feng hadn't thought that the journey to Nebula City would be so dangerous. It wouldn't be a big deal if there were only fierce beasts, but if there were bandits, then it would be very scary. Since there were bandits on the way to Nebula Pavilion, there were bound to be many experts among them. It was no wonder that the honest-looking young man wanted to form a group with him. Lin Feng was bold because of his skills, but he wasn't afraid of being strong. If he were to travel alone, he would easily become a target for bandits. If he were to be surrounded by bandits, then it would only add to the trouble. It was better to form a group. Just as the honest-looking young man had said, there was strength in numbers. If bandits saw that there were more people, they might not easily come looking for trouble. Lin Feng nodded and said, "Since everyone is going to Nebula City, then we can look after each other." The honest-looking young man was very happy after hearing this. He scratched his head and smiled, saying, "My name is Han Shua. How should I address you, brother?" "Lin Feng. Brother Lin, come with me. I'll bring you to meet everyone," Han Shua said. Lin Feng nodded and walked with Han Shua to a restaurant. There were 10 people sitting in a private room on the 2nd floor. Hancha said, "I'm back." A somewhat seductive woman said, "Han Shua, I asked you to go find someone. Did you manage to get him?" Han Shua said, "This is Brother Lin. He's the person I found." Lin Feng nodded to everyone and said, "I'm Lin Feng, and I'm also planning to go to Nebula City. I heard from Brother Han that everyone was going to Nebula City as well, so I came here to accompany everyone." A white-clothed young man curled his lips and said ambiguously, "Han Shua, I asked you to go find someone. You've been gone for half a day, and all you've found is a martial general cultivator? If we really meet fierce beasts or bandits on the way, won't he become a burden to us? You've disappointed us. Originally, you were only at the first layer of the Martial King realm, and we didn't plan to bring you along. We only agreed to let you go because you shamelessly begged us. Now, you've brought a cultivator weaker than you. You're already a burden, and now you've brought another burden. Do you want us to protect the two of you when you encounter danger? This innocent-looking young woman was obviously not an easy person to get along with. She mocked Lin Feng and Han Shuo. I. Han Shuo was speechless after being reprimanded. Han Shuo looked like an honest person, and these people obviously saw that Han Shuo was honest and wanted to bully him. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. Everyone, it's already good that Brother Han was able to bring someone along. There's no need to be so harsh on Brother Han. I feel that although Brother Lin's cultivation is only at the martial general realm, he's still a high-level one. Even if he encounters danger, he should have no problem protecting himself. At this moment, a young man who looked to be about 15 or 16 years old spoke up. When the others heard this, they couldn't help but frown slightly. They wanted to retort, but in the end, they didn't dare to speak because there was an old servant standing behind the young man. Although he was a servant, his cultivation was at the 10th layer of the martial king realm, and he was the strongest among the group. If they wanted to safely pass through this dangerous area, they would have to rely on him. When a middle-aged man saw that the atmosphere was a bit stiff, he smiled and tried to smooth things over. It's not easy to travel outside. Since we're able to meet here, it can be considered fate. Everyone, please bear with it. Another middle-aged cultivator with a sword on his back opened his eyes. His eyes were flickering with a bright light. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. This person's mental strength was full. It should be a sign that he was about to transform into spiritual energy. He was also at the 10th layer of the martial king realm. This cultivator with a sword on his back should be stronger than the old servant. Although they were both at the 10th layer of the martial king realm, the old servant was old and his qi and blood were declining. Naturally, his cultivation was weaker. As for the cultivator with a sword on his back, he was in the prime of his life. He was at the peak of his cultivation. This cultivator with a sword on his back clearly had some prestige. He said, "Let's go to the Spirit Dragon Inn and rest for the night. We'll buy everything we need to buy today. Tomorrow morning, we'll leave for Starcloud City." Everyone nodded. They didn't have any objections. Everyone dispersed one after another. "Young Master Yu, thank you so much for helping me out just now." Although Han Shuo was stupid, he wasn't stupid. Therefore, after everyone dispersed, he was the first to thank the young man. The old servant rushed in front of the young man and stopped him. Han Shuo awkwardly scratched his head. The young man said, "Brother Han, you're welcome." Lin Feng also cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Brother Yu." The young man nodded and said, "It's nothing." The young man didn't have any intention of chatting with Lin Feng. He then left with the old servant. "Brother Lin, I'm really sorry. I didn't think. Han Shuo said, embarrassed. After thinking for a long time, he still didn't know how to express himself. He was a very simple and honest person. Lin Feng had a good impression of him. He patted Han Shuo's shoulder and said, "You don't have to blame yourself. There will always be people who look down on others." Han Shuo said, "Brother Lin, it's good that you're not angry. Actually, those people only have bad mouths, but they're actually very kind." Lin Feng couldn't help but smile bitterly. This Han Shuo was really too honest. Those people had ordered him around and reprimanded him, but he still spoke up for them. Unfortunately, who would remember his kindness? Who would appreciate it? Han Shuo scratched his head and said, "Brother Lin, you just arrived in Pingyao town. You haven't booked a room yet, right?" Lin Feng nodded and said, "Since everyone is staying at the Spirit Dragon Inn, I'll stay there as well." Han Shuo said, "The Spirit Dragon Inn's rooms are already full. If Brother Lin doesn't mind, you can stay with me. However, the room I'm staying in is the most ordinary one. I'm a little worried that Brother Lin will feel wronged." "What's there to feel wronged about?" Lin Feng smiled. Han Shuo said happily, "As long as Brother Lin doesn't mind, it's fine." "Then, Brother Lin, come with me to take a look at the rooms." Lin Feng nodded and followed Han Shuo to his room. It was indeed a very ordinary room with simple decorations and old furniture. Han Shuo said embarrassedly, "It's really too simple. Why don't I ask around and see if there are any better rooms?" Lin Feng said, "I think it's pretty good. It's 100 times better than sleeping in the forest." Han Shuo nodded and said, "As long as Brother Lin doesn't mind, Lin Feng looked at Han Shuo curiously and asked, Brother Han, why are you risking your life to go to Nebula City? Han Shuo scratched his head embarrassedly and said, I heard that Nebula Pavilion is recruiting students, so I'm hoping to try my luck. If I can become an outer disciple of Nebula Pavilion, that would be great. Even if I can't become an outer disciple, becoming an odd job disciple would be good too. That way, I'll be able to bring honor to my family. My village has only produced one martial king cultivator in several hundred years. I want to become strong and return to my hometown with glory in the future. Hope appeared in Han Shua's eyes. He was filled with hope. That kind of resolute expression in his eyes made Lin Feng slightly moved.